Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Welcome to everybody. If my internet is slow or lagging, it's because I'm still on a vacation here in Tunisia, in a particular area called Monastir. Alhamdulillah, it's been very interesting, very different here in Tunisia. And one thing I have to mention, everybody here in Tunis and Tunisia is highly concerned about the situation that is happening in Palestine. Everybody is really heartbroken from the coverage that they receive here in Tunisia. And after going to the masjid in Monastir in the Medina, uh, I was told that every Friday the Imam spends roughly 10 minutes in making supplications for the people of Palestine and in Gaza and Lebanon and everywhere else where people are being oppressed. I did upload the clip on my YouTube channel. The sermon is in Arabic, so if you can understand Arabic, please benefit from that particular clip that I made. Also, I want to mention that just within 48 hours, over 100 Palestinians have been killed, murdered. Uh,
Mm.
it's really, truly shocking the the time zone that we're living in now, and people's worldview. It's very difficult to understand. Also, there is a big pushback now with certain soft drink brands. A new brand called Cola Gaza has just come out in the UK, and I really can't wait to actually support that brand. I'm not a big fan of soft drinks, but nevertheless, if this will help me support the people of Palestine, and it's a unique product, it's called Cola Gaza, and it has the flag of the Palestinian people. And I really plead to anybody who's able to buy that product instead of buying the other brands, which we know are open support of the Israeli government. Once again, I'm joined with my beloved brother Yusuf Ismail, all the way from South Africa. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh, brother Yusuf. Nice to see you.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and greetings of peace and blessings to all those out there, friend and foe alike. And yeah, no, you're not in United Kingdom, but you're in Tunisia. I'm in the heart of South Africa, on the southern part of the continent. We're in different parts of the world. And I think it's important that this discussion continues. We've been doing the focus on the genocide that's been committed perpetually by Israel over the past several months, since last year, October. And interestingly, Mohammed, I don't know if you got the news, as I did, where you have a situation, as is reported now in the international media, and some news opinions which have basically confirmed that this is indeed the case, that the ICC, after months of delaying, I think about 190 days of delaying, has finally issued arrest warrants against both Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant for war crimes committed in Gaza. They, in fact, did, in principle, authorize arrest warrants against Mohammed Deif, the Hamas leader, although he's been murdered by Israel, and Ismail Haniyeh and Yahya Sinwar were both murdered. But what is fascinating, Mohammed, is that Hamas has actually welcomed this and stated that, in fact, international law should be respected, and that the ICC, they're, theoretically speaking, they welcome the decision, as opposed to this garbage that you see from the Israeli side, where these scoundrels and scumbags have basically called it anti-Semitic and made slanderous allegations. Of course, there's a sexual case of harassment that's been leveled against the prosecutor. Although I may add that the ICC, and those who out there who know international law, the ICC consulted some of the top legal experts on this particular issue, on the authorization of arrest warrants. And for those ignoramuses out there who claim that this is anti-Semitic or anti-Jewish or against the Jewish people, that kind of rubbish. What they fail to realize is that one of the advisors to the body, because the prosecutor sought the assistance of international jurists, as has been confirmed by the Financial Times, but one of the individuals was a former Israeli-American lawyer and judge. Well, check him up. His name is Theodore Meron. He's about, I think, 90 somewhat years old now. But he served as a judge to the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, the International Criminal Tribunal for the for Rwanda. That was before the formation of the World Court, that's International Court of Justice, in 2000. He is a descendant of Holocaust victims. He was the Israeli ambassador in Canada in office in 1971 to 1975. He was the president of the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia between 2002 and 2005. And more than that, he also served in an advisory capacity to the state of Israel. He was after the Six-Day War in 1967, Meron was in fact the legal counsel to the Israeli Foreign Ministry, who was writing secret memos for the then Prime Minister Levi Eshkol when they were considering the re-establishment of Jewish settlements in the Kfar Etzion after the 1967 war. So this is someone that was deeply, deeply entrenched in the Israeli political system, the political class, and no less an individual than him, amongst many others, have actually supported these issuing of arrest warrants against both Netanyahu and Gallant. And so essentially you now have a situation where these barking dogs have been, essentially, screaming cries of anti-Semitism. And I'm glad they've done it, because now this basically means that essentially nobody's anti-Semitic. You're not going to basically label anybody. It's a kind of a ruse, a shameless label, where kind of a blood libel, where you just simply throw blood libel against individuals and believe that people are going to believe your bullshit. And unfortunately, it doesn't work any longer. So what you have is that there was a stunning decision where they rejected all jurisdictional challenges, defying Israeli threats, defying the harassment of the Israeli lobby trolls, defying the obstruction of the US government and the Congress. The International Criminal Court issued these arrest warrants against Netanyahu and Gallant. And in doing so, whilst it may be a Pyrrhic victory, they may not, if he lands in the United States at the very least, it's not going to be executed. I don't know about the United Kingdom, but I saw an interview on LBC by the Home Secretary a couple of days ago, where she was skirting around the bush and not coming to the particular issue, in terms of which they question her point blank: do you support and will you execute the arrest warrants issued by the International Criminal Court? And she was beating around the bush and couldn't essentially come, talking about respecting the ICC in principle and all of that, but could not answer straightforward questions. So this basically shows the Western duplicitous double standards and hypocrisy. And also to the extent that whilst Israel was publicly smearing the court, working behind the scenes to obstruct justice, filing alleged, I would say ridiculous and stupid legal challenges to the ICC's jurisdiction, claiming that the court had no jurisdiction over the situation in Palestine, over Israeli nationals, since Israel has not consented to jurisdiction. Court rejected it. And so essentially what you've got here is that the warrants against Netanyahu and Gallant as co-perpetrators of war crimes, of starvation, essentially what they're facing, the charges of war crimes, starvation, intentionally, not accidentally killing, intentionally directing attacks against the civilian population, and of the crimes against humanity of murder, persecution, other inhumane acts, as part of a widespread and systematic attack against the civilian population of Gaza. The ICC also accused the two perpetrators of intentionally, knowingly depriving the civilian population in Gaza of food, water, medicine, medical supplies, fuel, electricity, And I mean, we've seen these reports and we've seen the Israeli counterpoints, talking points, whereby they basically claim that, look, it's Hamas that has been holding back these particular food aid. But now we know, as has been done, investigative report, and we've seen this, we've discussed over several months, that Israel has been basically blocking food. And in many instances, there have been criminal gangs operating in Gaza. This is a report that came out, I think, about 2 or 3 days ago. Criminal gangs operating in Gaza under the full knowledge and cover of the IDF that are taking the food and the medicine and the nutrition that's much needed for the Gazan population, and then attempting to sell it on the black market. Hamas got nothing to do with that. The health ministry in Gaza got nothing to do with that. And so what essentially happens is that, for their part, Israel, Netanyahu, not surprisingly, have rejected the warrants with the usual vitriol. But, they both woke up, and Israeli supporters, those out there, those scumbags and scoundrels out there, woke up in a smaller world yesterday where where these two individuals will be unable to travel to at least 124 countries. That includes many of the Western allies, and every one of these parties to the Rome Statute of the ICC is now obliged to arrest them and hand them over for trial. So that's essentially what you've got there. And Mohammed, before I leave, and I just want to share something with you here. If I can just come to the page, if I can just go to the StreamYard studio, just to present this, if I can get this. This is from the International Criminal Court. Where are we? Situation. Yeah, here we are. If you could share this. This is a press release by the International Criminal Court of the situation in the state of Palestine. And it, of course, gives the reasons as to why Israel's challenges to jurisdictions and issues of warrant of arrest against Netanyahu, I mean, are totally flimsy. So here's it here for those who want to read, if I can expand this. And you see basically all this that's basically going on. And all of this is backed by solid information. Whilst I end on this particular point, South African government brought the genocide application in February. They now brought what we discussed about a month or two back. They brought an addendum, something that follows through in terms of giving the premise for basing it on the facts as to why Israel is not just now accidentally or by collateral damage targeting civilians, but they're giving case-by-case documentation where they're deliberately killing and murdering Palestinian children. You've seen cases where essentially they're Palestinian children have been shot dead. We had that report from Democracy Now! We've had international news outlets like Al Jazeera that is now based there, and of course other organizations, entities like the Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, and so on, that have relayed information where there's deliberate targeting of children with bullet wounds to their particular head by Israel. And essentially, what you've got a situation here is that this is the press release, and they in fact deal with everything here, from jurisdiction, from the aspect as to why they were given, and of course you've got a major team of international lawyers that back this particular arrest warrant. So those who are against these arrest warrants are essentially against humanity. So I want to basically leave it at that. I believe you pointed out to me that we've got a guest on our show tonight, Mohammed. Is that true?
Yeah, we have got a guest backstage, and hopefully we'll bring him on shortly within the next 30 seconds or so. I just want to mention we are live also on Brother Yusuf's channel. It's called the South African Debate Initiative channel. So if you're able to go and subscribe to Brother Yusuf, go there and subscribe to the channel. Also, we're live on my Rumble account, Abu Shuaib. If you've got a Rumble account, please subscribe to my Rumble channel, much appreciated. Also, we've got a live poll on my YouTube channel, COBFF. Please have your say in the live poll. The question is, will the US follow suit regarding the arrest warrant for
No, they won't.
Benjamin?
They won't.
Yeah,
So
of
sorry
course.
to interrupt you, but they won't, of course.
No, of course.
I've seen that they
Majority,
won't.
yeah. So, brothers and sisters, really appreciate your support, your chat, so forth in the comment section. We'll be bringing Matt on now. So, brothers and sisters, this is straight off the cuff. So, let's see where this leads to. Matt, welcome to the show. You're live now on the screen.
Yes, thank you for having me. I I have a few comments to make about the ICC and their attempt to arrest Netanyahu and others. If you recall, back in the Iraq War, they did the ICC submitted a arrest warrant also for President George W. Bush, and at the time, the same accusations came out that there was genocide in Iraq and that George W. Bush was at fault for killing so many people, and that the arrest warrant was valid. And what really happened and transpired after that was, I think the United States withdrew from Iraq. Most of their forces, and then I'm not sure what happened to the arrest warrant, but from what I remember in the media is that the ICC had no jurisdiction and had no police force, had no army, had no way to issue this warrant against President George W. Bush. And I'm not sure what happened, but I think it's going to be the same thing when they issue another arrest warrant. You talk about Western nations and other nations who would honor that arrest warrant. I'm not sure if ICC has a jail or has a prison or has. I know they have a court, but I don't know what physical facilities they have to to arrest somebody and then have them detained. And then I would also wonder why they're not.
Just to correct you, Matt. I think just to correct you factually, the ICC has never issued. I mean, there were talks about wanting to, but at no stage in history did the ICC issue an arrest warrant against Bush, and he was viewed as a war criminal. There were a lot of individuals that were calling for an arrest warrant to be issued against George W. Bush for what happened in Iraq. It was not on the aspect of genocide. There were no allegations of genocide. And the United States was never charged or there were no allegations made against it for genocide. The allegations were made by many countries and individuals for the United States soldiers under command responsibility of having committed war crimes. Now you've got a different situation, a different set of circumstances, which is unprecedented somewhat. You've got a Western nation, which is Israel, one before the International Court of Justice for the crime of genocide, which is the greatest crime. And you got a situation where Karim Khan, the International Criminal Court prosecutor, issued or brought an application several months ago for arrest warrants to be issued against Netanyahu, Gallant, and of course some of the Hamas leaders. And there was a long process. And yesterday we have a situation, as you can see in the screen. I don't know if it's still up, Mohammed, the one that I basically showed you directly from the press release issued by the International Criminal Court on the 21st of November, that they now have authorized and actually issued the arrest warrants, which means theoretically any country, which means any Western country, particularly European countries, that are signatories to the Rome Statute are by law and by virtue of being signatories to the Rome Statute, and of course then members of the International Criminal Court have to and are legally obligated, including the United Kingdom, to essentially arrest Netanyahu, to execute those particular warrants. And if they don't, then essentially they would be in breach of the Rome Statute, particularly Articles 18 and 19 of the Rome Statute, which the vast majority of European countries are signatories to. Of course, the United States is not, and Israel has never been a signatory to that particular case, and so they're claiming there's a lack of jurisdiction. But the reality of the situation is that Palestine is, or what is basically theoretically at the least Palestine. There was a declaration where the state of Palestine acceded to the Rome Statute by depositing its instrument of accession with the United Nations Secretary General. And by the way, that means by extension also Hamas, which would make Hamas signatories, although it's not a state actor, but by virtue of the fact that it had some sort of administrative control over Gaza, by virtue of the instrument of accession to the United Nations Secretary General in 2015, they then became signatories to the state of Palestine. So, to the Rome Statute. So, this would basically mean that if war crimes are committed by any parties within the West Bank or Gaza by an individual, then that individual can theoretically be charged in terms of the International Criminal Court, regardless of whether Israel is recognized as a Rome Statute or not. Now, I understand the point which you made that executing this, it's like the land of the powerful, or the powerful write history, whether they're right or wrong, and whether he'll be arrested, I don't know. It's hard to say. And this is to death Western values.
Brother Yusuf, sorry for interrupting you, but we'll let Matt maybe come push back from that. Matt, are you going to take that statement back, or have you done some Googling or anything to kind of like own up to the statement that you made was incorrect regarding Bush?
An incorrect statement.
I'll have to check on that, but the way I remember it, that the George W. Bush really thumbed his nose at the accusation that he had war crimes, and he was guilty of war crimes. So no, I'm not going to take that back. That's the way I remember it. And you guys can say that having a different opinion. You're welcome to that. But that's the way I remember it. And I could be wrong. I'm not saying that the official warrant was never issued, but the way I remembered it, it was in all the newspapers and all the media. They all reported it.
No,
so that's what I remember.
Matt, it was not. It was never. There were allegations that George Bush is a war criminal and the ICC should issue an arrest warrant against him. This is just an article I'm just checking up for you now. As late as March 20th, 2023. The question is, why didn't the ICC ever issue an arrest warrant against him? It's an entire article about this in relation to what happened in both 1991 in Kuwait against his father and, of course, George W. Bush. No arrest warrants were issued against George W. Bush. I mean, he's free to, if there was an arrest warrant, that means theoretically it should still stand. And if George W. Bush goes to any country of the world, they could theoretically arrest him. But he's been to Europe. He's been to the United Kingdom after having left the presidency. It's never been an issue. There were calls to issue an arrest warrant against him and have Bush and Blair charged for war crimes. And a number of parties and state actors were making that call back then. But for some reason, the ICC never issued an arrest warrant. There were never allegations of genocide that the United States had allegedly committed in Iraq, although you could argue either way. The only allegations were that U.S. soldiers committed horrific atrocities, and those atrocities were uncovered by Julian Assange in the WikiLeaks that he released in 2011, which I'm sure you're familiar with. My question to you now is, will you be bold enough, Matt, over the past several engagements we've had online, to condemn Israel for committing genocide? And if not, why not?
No, I condemn Hamas first. They're the ones who started this. So would you condemn Hamas for what they did on October 7th?
No. So you'll condemn Hamas, but you won't condemn Israel.
I didn't say that. I said before you condemn anybody, you got to condemn Hamas on October 7th. Do you condemn them, or do you admire them as freedom fighters?
No, firstly, the question I want to ask you, does Hamas have a right to resist in terms of international law?
Absolutely not. Hamas has no jurisdiction to rebel against the country of Israel. Law? No grounds. Absolutely none. I've been there. I've been to. Let me talk. Let me talk. Let me talk. You're not letting me talk.
Yeah.
Let me talk. Ahead. Okay. In 2019, I visited Israel. I visited the West Bank. I visited occupied territories in Bethlehem and Jericho.
Yeah.
And when I talked to the people, they all wanted peace. No one wanted a civil war. No one wanted war. There was nobody talking about war. When I spoke to a Palestinian lady and asked her about the situation, she wanted nothing but tourists to come in and buy her products. So when I hear about, that Hamas somehow is justified in attacking Israel on October 7th, I just get abhor. I just terrible thinking that somebody has the right to go in there and hang on. I'm not done yet. Give me 30 seconds and I'll be finished. Give me 30 seconds. Can I have 30 seconds?
Yeah, sure.
So
go ahead.
When you have a bunch of people with weapons and attack a bunch of people just out there listening to music and kill 1,200 people, that is, and then kidnapping of people. I think Israel has the right to do something in military terms, and what that is and how much that is debatable. So go ahead and respond.
So you're saying, okay, so let me try and understand your position, because there's a number of aspects that you've raised. Firstly, I want to address your point about the right to resist. Let's basically split it up so we can understand this particular point. In terms of international law, there's a principle called jus in bello, that is a conduct of resistance, but has to be in accordance with the laws of war. There is a protocol which many scholars that support the Palestinian right to use armed struggle in pursuit of self-determination. That is a resolution that was passed by the United Nations General Assembly. And what that basically states, many scholars have argued, based on international law, that Palestinians, and we're not talking about Hamas, but that Palestinians in general, in the context of the occupied territories in Gaza and on the West Bank, have the right to resist under international law, including armed resistance. Now, the conduct of such resistance has to be in accordance with the laws of war. And that basically would imply that attacks on Israel can, in principle, only be limited to military targets. That's allowed. You can go in and kill soldiers in terms of international law, but attacks on Israeli civilians are, of course, prohibited. Now, whether it is the Palestinians who have the right to resist against Israeli occupation, or it is Israel that has a right to self-defense against Palestinian violence. But the important point, the important aspect in the whole genocide, that you'd call it, or the conflict, that it is entrenched right in terms of international law that can be invoked, that the Palestinians have the right to resistance, and such resistance could be targeting and killing of civilians. Now, having established that on the particular let me try and park that, because there's different aspects I want to unpack with you. That's one point. That's a given. So the first point I want to ask you before I move on, do you accept that principle, the Palestinian right of armed resistance? We're going to deal with October 7th, but do you accept that particular principle in terms of Protocol 1, which is a declaration of friendly relations, as well as several resolutions by the United Nations Security Council and General Assembly? Do you accept that principle?
Yeah, except that there's armed resistance on the part of Israel or any other country. But right now, Palestine is not a country.
No, I'm talking about the right of Palestine. No, you're failing to understand my point before I move on. Do the Palestinians, in terms of international law, have the right to resist? Because if you are
Absolutely
saying no,
not. They're not a country.
So basically, then there's no basis and justification for what you're saying, because Protocol 1, which is a declaration on friendly relations, as well as resolutions of the United Nations Security Council and General Assembly, have made mention of the fact that a community or an ethnic group that is under illegal occupation has the right to resist an armed struggle. This is an established point in international humanitarian law, and you've just denied something which is established in international law. Now, you are saying they're not a country, but the international law entitles and obligates those that are living under illegal military occupation, which the West Bank and Gaza is, for the right to resist. Now, this is a situation that is there. My question to you is, how are you saying something which is basically non-existent in terms of international law, when international law lays it down? All international law puts a caveat on. It says that when there's armed struggle and when there's a violent struggle, that violence should only be limited to military targets and Israeli installations and not to civilians. And we're going to unpack that in relation to October 7th. But how can you say that Palestinians have no right to resistance because they're not a country, when international law, in fact, gives all occupied powers the right to resist? Answer that question, please, Matt.
Well, I hope you'll let me answer, but Palestine is not a country. If anything, you could argue that it's a civil war because Israel is the overseer of those areas, even though they're disputed territories. Israel, hang on, let me talk. You can't interrupt me. I'm in the middle of a thought. You got it. No, you can disagree with me after I finish talking. You can disagree with me after I finish talking. You can disagree with me after I finish talking. You need to let me talk. You can't jump in when I'm talking.
But not when you make falsehood. You have to
let me finish my thought. Then you can disagree with me.
Okay, I'll let you finish your thought. Make an accurate thought because we need to go on to the next one once we establish this.
I'm telling you that Palestine is not a country. It's not recognized as a country yet. They have made their issue and they want to be a country. There's no ethnic part of Palestine. They're Arabs. I guess you could call them Arabs. It's not an ethnic cleansing. There's no ethnic identity in Palestine. They have no history. You go back to Palestine to what? Back in 1920 when they're called Palestine by the British mandate. So that's where Palestine started. So there are a recent, the way I understand the disagreement between Israel and the Palestinian territories is that they are, they want a autonomous rule, and right now Israel is saying no. So it's a civil war, if anything. There's nothing that says Palestine has any history in Israel other than when it started in 1920. You can go ahead and respond.
You're conflating the issues. But before I respond, I just want to clarify something with you. What's your definition of a civil war? Do you know what a civil war is?
Yeah, it's a disagreement between internal country. Go ahead.
Yeah. Do Palestinians living in the West Bank and Gaza, do they have Israeli citizenship?
They can.
Do Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza have Israeli citizenship? Because Israel denies them citizenship. They're not Israeli Arabs.
Israel's not allowed to go in those territories.
No, you said, I'm just asking
Israel's not allowed to go into Palestine. Israel's...
Okay, let me give you an analogy. I'm going to give you an analogy, Matt. In the United States, you've got those who support the Democratic Party and those that support the Republicans. Let's assume those that are supporting the Democrats, they've got the right to vote, and those that support the Republicans, they've got the right to vote, fight against each other and create anarchy. Would you agree that would be a civil war?
Sure, it would be. Mm-hmm.
Right. Now, apply that situation to the occupied territories. The Palestinians in the West Bank and the Palestinians in the Gaza are denied the right to citizenship by Israel. Israel will refuse to give them a citizenship. How do you call that a civil war against non-citizens of a country? Explain that to me.
I will explain it to you.
War. No, you said it's a civil war.
They have the right to be part of Israel. If the Palestinians could, instead of being their own country, could say, hey, we want to be part of Israel. We want to be Israeli citizens. And if they wanted to do that, they would be welcome into the fold of Israel. Israel is a pluralistic country.
But they won't. You don't understand the point. Firstly, you've jumped to too many things. But
they will. They took over Gaza. Egypt.
Israel has stated clearly that they won't.
Let's go back.
If they do,
let's go back. Who ruled Gaza? Will you tell me? Who was in charge of Gaza before the British mandate?
No, hold on a second.
Gaza was ruled by who? What country?
Hold on a second.
Egypt.
I'm here to teach you. You're not here.
Egypt owned Gaza.
No,
okay.
Egypt owned Gaza, right?
No, Matt.
Egypt owned Gaza. Is that true or false?
What we need to do, guys.
Tell me. Did Egypt own Gaza? Yes or no?
No, they didn't.
Did Egypt own Gaza? Yes or no?
No, they didn't. They were under administrative control.
Egypt ruled Gaza. They did. Read the history. Read the history book.
different country. Matt, are we going to talk over each other? Because I gave you time and I want to
Yes, you can say crazy things if you want.
You can't answer this. See this as an educational session for once. Because I'm here to teach you, not the other way around. You're not teaching me anything. You are even confused on basic subject. You don't even know what a civil war is. So let me just explain this point. You can't call what is happening in Gaza. Firstly, it takes us off the point, but you can't call what's happening in Gaza and the West Bank as civil war, because the population in the West Bank, that is the Palestinians, and the population in Gaza are both denied citizenship by Israel in terms of the Israeli legal system. That's a fact. So both those populations that are living there, unlike the Israeli settlers in the West Bank, don't have the same rights as Israeli citizens, and Israel will never give them citizenship, because if they do, it would essentially mean that the Jews will no longer be in majority, and if they get citizenship, it will mean one man, one vote, and Israel may possibly cease to exist as Israel. You'd now have probably Palestinian leadership presiding over Israel and the Palestinians. So basically, Israel is afraid to give them citizenship. So it can't be a civil war. But that takes us away from my initial question to you. My initial point, and I want Mohammed to share the screen, Mohammed. I've just shared the screen so that he knows the aspect of armed resistance. I'm bringing you something called Protocol 1 of the Geneva Conventions. If you can see this on the screen, it's frequently cited. It basically says that this refers to the preceding paragraph, which includes armed conflicts in which peoples are fighting against colonial domination and alien occupation, and against racist regimes in the exercise of their right to self-determination. And the authors of that particular article, referring to the wars of natural liberation that had accompanied decolonization, the Israeli occupation of Palestinians, and of course the racist apartheid South Africa. So alien occupation refers to territory conquered by a state but not yet annexed and was inhabited by a different ethnic group, which is the case of Israel, because Israel, even the founders of Israel, like David Ben-Gurion, like Theodor Herzl, all define it as a settler colonial state. All. There's no, so if you're going to deny Israel as a settler colonial state, the very founders of Israel were bold in stating that is a settler colonial state. And the other point is that the Israeli legal jurist, Yoram Dinstein, he even basically makes the point. He even makes the point that whilst international law doesn't prohibit the acts of resistance, it doesn't prevent the occupying state from penalizing those who resist, which means that aspect is absent. But even he was willing to concede that Palestinians have the right in terms of international law to resist. So I want to clarify one thing for you before I move on to October 7th, is that will you now recheck and re-educate yourself that the right to resist is not a right that is given to a country. The right given to a country is probably the right to self-defense. The right to resist in terms of Protocol 1 of the Geneva Conventions is a right given to any occupied ethnic group, any group, whether you call them Palestinians, whether you call them Arabs, if they're in that land and they can trace their particular ancestry before 1948 and they've been under settler colonial occupation, they've got the right to resist in terms of international law. And the Protocol 1 of the Geneva Conventions and the general resolutions, the resolution of the General Assembly, has given Palestinians the right to armed resistance. The only caveat that they put is that they should not target civilians, which is, of course, understandable, that your resistance should be against Israeli military infrastructure and Israeli military objects and Israeli soldiers for that particular matter. So now I'm coming back again to the question before I move on to October 7th. Will you concede this point that you were wrong, and that in terms of international law, let's not move around in circles because I want to move on to October 7th, that in terms of international law, the Palestinians have the right to resist in terms of international law. This is enshrined in the Geneva Conventions. It's enshrined by numerous General Assembly resolutions, and you simply stating that it is not there is just simply willful self-delusion and denial, because you're basically exposing your ignorance. So can you apologize for what you just said on that particular point, that you were wrong? And then we can move on to October 7th.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Have you been to Israel, Joseph? Tell me.
No, I have not.
Have you been to Palestine? Have you been to Jerusalem?
If I go to Israel, they'll arrest me. If I go to Israel, they'll arrest me. I've called for the total eradication of the state of Israel. They'll arrest me. I cannot go to Israel. They will arrest
So
me.
you've never been there. You've never been to Israel. You've never been to the occupied territories.
They will. If I enter Israel, they will arrest me. I'm a lawyer in South Africa. If I go to Israel and I land at the David Ben Gurion airport, they will arrest me. So I cannot go to Israel, and I don't want to be put in dungeons like your particular journalists in the United States that have gone to Israel. Journalists, young journalists, and they've been arrested and tortured in Israel. What do you say about that? You think someone like me is going to be given kid gloves?
I think you're a coward. You won't go to Israel. You won't know. You don't know. You've never been through a checkpoint. I've been through checkpoints. I know that before October 7th, there was peace. I went there in 2019. I experienced peace. I went to Jericho and I saw Palestinians selling their goods to American tourists. And there was total peace before that. There was I didn't see anybody. Let me talk. I didn't see anybody shooting anybody at checkpoints. I didn't see any Palestinians being wrestled to the ground or kids throwing rocks. I didn't see that. And the media blows that up. So the way I understand it is from being there as my testimony, you won't let me talk because you're an idiot. You need to let me talk.
So you're calling me an idiot for not
yes, you're an idiot because you won't let me talk. Why don't you let me talk? You're a coward. You won't go to Israel. You've never been to Israel. You don't even know what you're talking about. You've never seen a checkpoint. You've never been through a checkpoint. You don't know anything about Israel. All you do is you mouth off that the ICC has some very important power in the world, and that the Palestinians, even though they might have a right to self-determination, the Hamas has screwed up their country. Hamas has ruined it for Hezbollah has ruined it. They have caused the genocide. They're hiding behind civilians.
Are you done?
Hamas and Hezbollah, they're hiding behind civilians. They hide in tunnels, and the only way Israel can attack them is by blowing up the civilian facilities. And unfortunately, there's innocent civilians that get caught. Now, to stop the war, there's a very simple thing that could happen. All they have to do is release the hostages and stop shooting rockets into Israel and get it to go back to where it was in 2019 when I visited. And the tourists love Israel. They love the Palestinian areas. If they would just go back to having resorts along the Mediterranean coast there in Gaza, they would have a lot of tourists coming in. But instead, they chose war. They chose Hamas. They chose Hezbollah, and now we got a war. And you want to stop it? There's some really simple things to stop the war, and that would be stop shooting rockets into Israel and lay down your weapons.
You done?
So that's it.
Are you done? Okay, yeah. So I don't want you to run away. I don't want you to run because you had a mouthful of false.
I'm not running away. I'm here.
Yeah, so be there, stick there, right? Firstly, let me just point this out. You said you were there in 2019. If you were there in 2019, I don't know how true it is, and I'll take your word for it that you were there.
I can send you a picture.
Okay, that's fine. I take your word for it. In 2019 and in 2018, there was this situation here. Where I just want to basically show you something. This is a report. These are documented. Can you show this on the screen? This is a report. There's something in 2018 and 2019 which was called the Great March of Return. You've got it on the screen, Brother Mohammed. And as you can see here, this is the United Nations. So I'm not making it up. It's the Human Rights Council of the United Nations. This is the independent documents. What happened? Can you see this on the screen? What basically happened is that in the 2018-2019 Great March of Return, this is essentially a peaceful protest, a peaceful march by Palestinians to the Great Walls occupying Israel because of the fact that essentially these were lands that their grandfathers and great-grandfathers were kicked out and ethnically cleansed and dumped into the squatter camps and the concentration camps of Gaza. And so symbolically, as a gesture in Gaza, all of them made weekly and on every Friday at the very least, peaceful protests to the wall, to the actual fence that is by Israel, and essentially stating that we need our particular rights back. We need to go back to the homes where we essentially went to. And what the United Nations documented, the UN Commission inquiry, that Israeli snipers were deployed on the separation fence to police the protest, the Great March of Return, and they shot over 6,000, deliberately shot over 6,106 demonstrators. They killed 183 between 30 March 2018 and 31 December 2018. You then have a situation that, poets, journalists, boys as young as 15.
Yusuf,
Yes.
Can we just pause there? Ask Matt, what month did he actually go in 2018?
Well, what month did you go?
November.
Because this is 30th March to 31st December. What month
November
did you go?
2019, I was there.
Oh, so you went after the Great March of Return. So you stated that the situation was fully peaceful before October 7th. I'll give you, it's been declared that the year before October 7th, that is 2022, 2023, was the deadliest year for children who were shot dead in the West Bank in a decade of violence being committed by Israel. So it was Israeli settlers, the IDF, and Israeli police targeting children. Some of these kids threw stones at the Israeli settlers. They were shot dead. But here you have a situation which is documented, which you probably obviously don't know about. It's the United Nations Human Rights Council. They did a comprehensive commission of inquiry. You can check the report. It's about a 100-page documented report for the individual cases where these people weren't part of Hamas and weren't part of any kind of militant resistance. This was a peaceful Gandhian-like protest stating that they've got the rights to go back to their homes and they should be afforded the same rights as Israelis, and they were shot dead in cold blood. In one instance, they were shooting them on the knees, paralyzing them, killing them. So clearly, you're not familiar with this particular point. So before I move on to your next allegation of human shields, would you be bold enough now in condemning this particular action by the IDF, which was under the basis of command responsibility? And don't jump, I'm talking about this particular incident and this report of an inquiry on the 2018 protests in the occupied Palestinian territories. Will you be bold enough in condemning this? This was released on 18th of March 2019 and 28th of February 2019. So I don't know which month you went, but at the time that you went to Israel, this report was already there where you claimed that you were in a peaceful environment and everybody was kumbaya and happy with each other. Will you condemn Israel for the Great March of Return killings?
I don't know anything about that. I can't talk to it, so I won't speak to it.
Ignorant. Well, now you do. So now that you know about it, will you condemn it? Now that you
do you acknowledge that it was peaceful in 2019, November of 2019, that there was love and peace and going on? See, you won't acknowledge that there was peace going on. There wasn't anybody throwing rocks. You just want to talk over me and you won't let me talk. See, you're just totally ignorant. You never been to Israel. You don't know anything about Israelis and how they want peace. You call for the destruction of Israel, and you're a crazy man. I just can't believe you would say that. That's absolutely stupid. You're promoting the genocide of people when you advocate for the destruction of Israel. That's crazy. You can't say that on public air. You shouldn't say that in media. You are just causing more hatred and more death by doing that. You're perpetuating a bad situation and you're making it worse.
Talk. I'm not like one of you. Where did I say that Israeli civilians must be killed? What did I call for?
You told me you would be arrested because you call for the annihilation of Israel. Didn't you say that?
The dismantlement of the state of Israel. Is that killing Israeli civilians?
What does that mean? That's calling dismantle Israel is the same thing as destroying it. That's terrible. How can you say that publicly? You should be arrested. You're an advocate of war.
Don't lie, man.
You should be arrested. You shouldn't be able to say that. Anybody who calls for the destruction of Israel should be in jail.
State of Israel. You know why? Do you know why? In the same way,
because you're an evil person. When you're evil, you say evil things.
You support killing of Palestinian civilians, and you calling me an evil person?
I don't call for the destruction of Palestine. I want peace. You call for the destruction of Israel, and you are just promoting more anger, more hatred, and more deaths. That's terrible
Okay.
for you to say that. I just can't believe you say that.
Matt, I just want to
Muhammad,
say
let me
something, if
respond.
you don't mind, Brother Yusuf. I just want to mention something. Matt was wrong in his statement regarding the arrest warrant for Bush. He didn't want to own up to that. He also mentioned previously that he doesn't think the Palestinians have a right to exist in that land. And also, he is saying the state of Palestine, there's no country that is named Palestine, but when you go to any type of information on internet, the Palestinian country is recognized. It is a recognized country. And now he is denying the fact that in 2018, many people were shot and over hundreds of people were killed on a peaceful protest. He is denying that also.
I'm
I
not
really don't
denying
know
it.
where.
I didn't deny it. Did I deny it? You play
Condemn
back
it.
the
Okay, if
tape.
you don't
I
deny
did
it, can you
not
condemn
deny
it?
it.
If
You
you
guys
don't
are
deny it, can you
liars.
condemn it?
You guys are
Can you
telling me that
condemn
I
it? If you
said
don't
things that
deny
I
it,
did
can you
not
condemn
say.
it? Okay,
I
Matt,
said
I
I
want you
didn't
to
know
talk.
anything about
Very
2018 because I wasn't there and I haven't read anything about it. I was there in 2019. It was peaceful. Everybody was loving. They were caring. They loved American tourists. They welcomed me. I went through checkpoints. Didn't see anything of any kind of violence at all. So that's just me. That's my testimony, and I have a right to say it.
Okay, Matt, so you don't deny it. Will you condemn it now? You don't deny it. Will you condemn it?
I'm not going to condemn something I don't know.
Okay, so you're ignorant. So basically, okay, you're ignorant. Will you
You're
condemn Israel?
ignorant. You weren't there in 2019. You've never been to Israel, so you're ignorant.
I'll bring out the reports on 2019 and I'll get you busted shortly. But will you?
Okay,
Okay,
please
well,
do
can I
that.
ask you something where you're more neutral? Can I ask you something where you're more? You want me to bring it up? Can you? Okay,
Bring it
look at the
up.
screen.
Go for it.
Will you? Okay, here's the question. If you don't have the gall in you, if you don't have the decency, the moral proclivity to condemn murder of Palestinian children who are being routinely shot dead in the head at this point in time,
And vice
or-
versa, you don't have the wherewithal to condemn October 7th.
I will. I'm coming to that now. Let's start with
Please
October
do
7th.
it. Let's condemn murder.
So look at your screen. So look at your screen. Look at your screen. This is a journalist, Asa Stanley. It says here how Israel killed hundreds of its own people on October 7th, invoking the Hannibal Directive, where you had reports by individuals, and even subsequently, there were stories of beheaded babies. There were stories of. Let me finish the point. Because I've let you bark a lot. We initially were given stories of the atrocity propaganda of the worst kind, that Hamas burned civilians, that Hamas beheaded babies, that there was mass rape that basically took place on October 7th, all of that. And now you find a situation that Israeli newspapers like the Haaretz, like even conservative outlets like the Times of Israel, like Yedioth Aharonot, for example, which is Ynet, an investigative Israeli news magazine doing phenomenal term, like human rights organizations in Israel like B'Tselem, have now basically come out and confirmed that, in fact, the vast majority of people that were killed on October 7th, by the way, there were 1,139, of which about 400 to 500 were soldiers, the balance were civilians, but that the vast majority of the civilians were killed on October 7th were in fact killed by Israel, invoking the Hannibal Directive. Now, you've got a situation here, an article by the investigative journalist Asa Stanley, and he goes into detail in relation to that. And what they basically do and they discuss essentially is the individual report by people where they basically pointed out having seen helicopter gunships shooting against the hostages and the particular Hamas militants that were taking the hostages away, based on the principle of the invocation of the Hannibal Directive. In fact, the report basically concludes that the following, and here's the report by Asa Stanley, a British journalist. Maybe I want you to comment on this, since I'm asking you want to go to October 7th. Israel expanded the use of its murderous Hannibal Directive designed to prevent soldiers by taking alive by killing many of its own civilians. The use of the Hannibal strikes are confirmed in the UN report published in June this year. Fire from Israeli helicopters, drones, tanks, and even ground troops was deliberately undertaken in order to prevent Palestinian fighters from taking live Israeli captives who could be exchanged for Palestinian prisoners. Now, if you want to ask me, look, do I necessarily support Hamas taking Israeli civilians as captives? Obviously, the answer is no, but they wanted to take them so they could exchange them for Palestinian prisoners. But the point being made is that the initiative of the local Gaza division, at the highest level within the army on that particular day, who came very late, stated that when they arrived, they invoked the Hannibal. There was a mass Hannibal directive. And the fact that they weren't concerned about the civilians is borne out by the fact that even up to this particular moment, the bombing of Israeli captives by Israel continues in Gaza today. The Israeli hostages, that have had their particular families taken away, they've turned up and rocked up at the Israeli administrative Knesset when Netanyahu gave the speech about a couple of weeks back. And they condemned Netanyahu's regime and many of the right-wingers there against Israel for having invoked the Hannibal directive, where they shoot both the Hamas militants and they kill their own civilians. And number one, they question them, why did Israel kill its own civilians? And why is it that presently in its bombing campaign in Gaza, it engaging in action which could kill its own civilians? And also why the fact that when there was an opportunity to rescue Israeli hostages in December, there were 4 naked Israeli hostages that came to the IDF. They were shot dead in cold blood by the IDF. These were Israeli hostages taken by Hamas. And after the bombing, they had found some degree of liberty, and they were shot dead by Israel. So the point I'm raising, since you keep on barking October 7th, October 7th, October 7th, what we realize, and what investigative journalists have basically shown us, is that essentially you have a situation that on October 7th, a significant number of people, in fact, the large number of civilians that were killed on October 7th, were in fact killed by Israel, invoking its own Hannibal directive. Will you condemn Israel for that? Or will you now again lay the blame on Hamas and state, look, Hamas took these captives and therefore Israel had no choice other than to kill its own captives and civilians? Because you've been talking about what happened on October 7th. I'm now showing you that on October 7th, Israel invoked the Hannibal directive. Do you even know what the Hannibal directive is? Or are you hearing this for the first time?
I know about it. Yes, I know about it.
So you know about it, which means that they're entitled to target their own civilians if there's a hostage crisis that is created, which was the case on October 7th. So now my question to you is, in light of that, and in light of the lies, and in light of the fact that even the convoy of vehicles, which they initially blamed Hamas as having burnt, which they couldn't buy AK-47s, now it's been confirmed that these cars, as you can see in this picture, were in fact burnt by Israel, that the people who were burnt alive on that day were burnt by Israel, by these helicopter gunships. Will you condemn Israel for that?
I'm going to.
Are you there?
I think he just dropped out. He was going to say something. I never removed him unless he pressed the wrong button.
Unless he ran away, bring him back.
I'm waiting for him to return. No, I'm not waiting for him to return. He hasn't come back. As soon as he comes back, I'll bring him onto the main panel again. Maybe he lost connection.
Okay, so let's just put a note there. Let's put a note on our YouTube channel that we never threw Matt out, but Matt left, and so we're calling Matt to come back and maybe post a StreamYard link. If you can post a StreamYard link on the YouTube page, Brother Mohammed.
Yeah, I'll do that now.
So look, if he's not there or anyone else is there, but it's quite fascinating, and I'm not saying he did this deliberately. But it's strange that after we discussed the aspect of the Hannibal directive, he now basically he left. But I mean, if you can post a StreamYard link on the YouTube channel,
it's done. It's done. I've also pinned it. Also, so yeah, anybody wants to come on.
So anyone else wants to come, but if you can also post it on the YouTube channel, where you've got the like, share, and subscribe, help the channel grow. So some people don't go to the link at the bottom. But in that particular section, so that people can join on. Otherwise, we're going to bring the show to the end if there's no one there, and then we'll continue having our discussion on the ICC warrants and some of the other. Yeah, that's a StreamYard link. So Matt, we haven't kicked you out, Matt, and if you're there, come back. This is our channel. We invite you back. We were having a discussion with you. We were now at the stage where we moved on to the fact that Israel murdered its own civilians on October 7th. And now I question Matt as to whether he condemns the Hannibal Directive, which was invoked by Israel on October 7th, which led to the vast majority of civilians killed on that particular day, killed by the Israeli occupied forces, not by Hamas. What's going to do with Hamas? Of course, yes, Hamas took captives. Whether we support that or not is another debate entirely. I don't necessarily support the idea of taking civilians as hostages. I support, for example, taking soldiers as hostages. That's fair game. If you take soldiers as hostages and keep them in Gaza,
now.
Is he back?
Yeah,
I'm back.
Matt, you there? Yeah. So Matt, here's the point. Before you left, the question we asked you is that will you condemn Israel, since you're mentioning October 7th, for having murdered its own civilians on October 7th, or will you claim that that murder was justified?
No, I think all murder is unjustified. Same thing with October 7th, the Hamas fighters who went in and attacked the music, the people, the concert goers. I think I condemn that first, but then if IDF forces result in tactics that are killing their own forces, killing their own civilians, I would condemn that also.
Okay, so that's fair. That basically is showing that you are now developing some form of consistency in relation to that. So this now then debunks the original notion, which many people pointed out, that Hamas beheaded babies, that Hamas burnt alive civilians, or in certain instances, I mean, there were like horror stories. I don't know if you've watched horror movies from Saw or Hostel and so on. Some of the worst forms of atrocity propaganda, stories about babies being put in microwave ovens and babies being ripped out of the bellies of women, or women's breasts being cut off, all nonsense, but all basically spread out in the mainstream media. Would you agree with me then that atrocity propaganda inflamed the emotions of the masses, and in fact led then to the actions whereby Israel now is engaging in its genocide against Gaza?
He's dropped off again. I don't know if he's got a bad connection, but he's dropped off again.
Okay. So, this is the point we've discussed this at length, but, I don't know what your take is on Matt, Mohammed. It appears to me that he's either brain ignorant and he doesn't even know what the Great March of Return is. But
this is whether Yusuf, we have encountered numerous people on this platform who seem to be blinkered or have a lack of fish, like as I say, like a fish's memory, like a goldfish. Their memory is very, very short for a short period of time. Matt's back now, so hopefully he'll
Matt's back. I want to ask Matt this point here. You see, Mohammed, share the screen here. This was from Democracy Now! It's I don't know if we showed this. I think there were so many allegations, things that we've seen, but I just want to play this report before we engage with Matt. It's an important thing by Democracy Now! Can you see this? Is it on the screen so I can share this? Israel is routinely, and this is now in present day, and that's probably one of the reasons why the arrest warrants were issued now, because things have just gone out of hand. Israel has gone berserk, and people are justifying this. This isn't Democracy Now!, where Israel is routinely shooting children in the head in Gaza, U.S. surgeon and Palestinian nurse. I just want to play this clip here and probably expand it.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org.
Can you hear this?
Peace Report.
I heard.
Yeah, okay. So let me just play this here. Hold on a second. I just lost that screen. I just want to play this here.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman in New York with Democracy Now!'s Juan Gonzalez in Chicago. Hi, Juan.
Hi, Amy, and welcome to all of our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.
As the official death toll in Gaza passes more than 42,400, the true number may be impossible to know until Israel's war is over. But medical workers who witnessed the carnage in Gaza's hospitals are speaking out. We begin today's show with a surgeon who volunteered at the European Hospital in Khan Yunis and wrote a devastating opinion piece in the New York Times, headlined 65 Doctors, Nurses, and Paramedics, What We Saw in Gaza. In a minute, we'll be joined by Dr. Feroz Sidwa, who begins the piece writing, quote, I worked as a trauma surgeon in Gaza from March 25th to April 8th. I volunteered in Ukraine and Haiti. I grew up in Flint, Michigan. I've seen violence and worked in conflict zones. But of the many things that stood out about working in a hospital in Gaza, one got to be nearly every day I was there, I saw a new young child who'd been shot in the head or the chest, virtually all of whom went on to die, 13 in total. At the time, I assumed this had to be the work of a particularly sadistic soldier located nearby. But after returning home, I met an emergency medicine physician who'd worked in a different hospital in Gaza 2 months before me. I couldn't believe the number of kids I saw shot in the head, I told him. To my surprise, he responded, "Yeah, me too, every single day," he said. The piece quotes dozens of healthcare workers and includes 3 X-rays or CT scans of pediatric patients who were shot in the head or the left side of the chest. The person who provided the scans was Dr. Mimi Saed, who works in Khan Yunis from August 8th to September 5th, and said the children usually arrived at the hospital either dead or in critical condition after suffering a single shot. On Tuesday, the New York Times opinion section editor issued a statement refuting claims circulating online that the images were altered, saying the editors had, quote, photographs to corroborate the CT scan images, but, quote, because of their graphic nature, we decided these photos of children with gunshot wounds to the head or neck were too horrific for publication. For more, we're joined by Dr. Feroz Sidwa, the trauma and general surgeon who wrote this piece. He also spearheaded an open letter to President Biden and Vice President Harris, signed by 99 U.S. medical professionals who served in Gaza, testifying to the unprecedented scale of the healthcare catastrophe and calling for an immediate ceasefire and the end to all U.S. support for Israel. We are also joined in Chicago by Raja Musla, the country representative in Gaza of Med Global, a medical humanitarian aid group. She previously worked as a nurse at Al Shifa Hospital in Gaza City. We welcome you both to Democracy Now! Dr. Feroz Sidwa, let's begin with you. Thank you for joining us in the studio. We heard from you in Gaza and spoke to you right when you came out. This is very significant, this New York Times op-ed. First, that the Times agreed to run it, and then the controversy around it, what they published and what they didn't publish. Tell us the story.
Yeah, the Times piece was interesting. Actually, the opinion section reached out, the visual opinion team reached out to me and asked me to write the piece. So we came up with the idea together, and that was after we wrote an open letter. Like you mentioned, we wrote one in October, but we also wrote one in July and to the Biden administration. That was when the Times reached out to me and said, can we get information about exactly who wrote or who saw what in Gaza? So we did. We designed a poll. I got everybody to answer it that I could, and we went on from there. The controversy that you mentioned about the images is just manufactured nonsense. It's no connection to reality whatsoever. These pictures there's no reason to doubt them at all. Furthermore, I've seen the full CT scans. I've seen the photos of the actual wounds on the children. It's not surprising. These were common injuries in Gaza. I mean, like almost everybody saw the same thing. Everybody saw kids get shot in the head. Almost everybody saw severely malnourished children. It seems like the piece has had an effect. It seems like it's making its way around, and people are seeing it, and they're kind of horrified by what they see, which they should be.
So this is basically
talk about the whole issue of whether to show the dead.
Okay, and he goes into details on this. This is an entire piece on Democracy Now! So Matt, I don't know if Matt is here or Matt has left, but essentially this is one example where now you've got a situation where regardless of whatever happening, it's no longer, as we've mentioned, Brother Muhammad, like with Hind Rajab, they fired, how much? What about 53 bullets? The vehicle had 53 bullets, but you have a situation now systematically where these children are being shot in the head. And the question initially asked, was this probably an aberrant sadistic soldier, or maybe just one or two, understandably within the military, you got probably rogue soldiers. But now they see a systematic pattern throughout Gaza where Israeli soldiers, through the entire principle of command responsibility, are deliberately killing children.
Also, Yusuf, we've got this image on social media where they have these drones where some child was shot and injured, and that was only just to get other people to help the young child, and they also were targeted by the drone strike. So it's all over social media.
I mean, what is amazing? What is amazing is that Matt can come in. Hamas never engaged in this kind of atrocity on October 7th, but even if they did, which they didn't, but even if they did, how do these Israeli supporters justify this insanity? I mean, like at the Flower Massacre, people go to for food and they were shot dead. Israel stated they died in a stampede, and yet all of those that allegedly died in a stampede had bullet wounds in the head. I mean, this is insane, and yet people want to justify this kind of evil behavior. What's your take on this, Matt?
Well, my take is that, October 7th was initiated by Hamas terrorists. And that if that never had happened, you would have 50,000 people living and being happy in Gaza. And a lot of those buildings would not be destroyed. So when it comes down to it, when Hamas initiates, and you say they have a right to do it, well, then in response, Israel can do a lot of evil things in response, and I do condemn them for overreacting. But there's things that October 7th it creates. It doesn't, if you're a advocate for peace, and you see, I got a article by Lucy Williamson on October 7th, and it came out. This is BBC on December 5th and 2015, and it talks about Hamas raped and mutilated women on October 7th. So if you deny it, you're denying the facts that BBC has published in this article in December 5th, 2023. Do you deny that they were raped and mutilated women in October 7th?
There was no rape.
It's a BBC. See?
No rape.
You deny the truth, right?
No, hold on. Can I respond to that?
Yeah, I wanted Matt to share the link. If there's like a link or anything, please share it so we can go through it together.
Can we go through it? Can we go through it?
Matt, have you got the link? You want to share your screen?
It's on my laptop, and I'm talking to you on my phone, so I don't have. I can tell you the link. It's BBC by Lucy Williamson, Middle East Correspondence, Jerusalem, December 5th, 2023. Look it up. You can Google it. It's called. The title of the article is Israel Gaza Hamas raped and mutilated women on October 7th. BBC hears. That's what it says on the title.
Let me teach him. Let me basically teach Matt this, because firstly, I asked him about something. I asked him about the Israeli soldiers deliberately targeting and shooting Palestinian children in the head. He says, yes, they gone a bit overboard, or they went overboard. He doesn't openly condemn it, but now he brings up.
I condemn it.
So you condemn Israel for what they're doing now?
No, I condemn any soldier shooting an innocent kid in the head.
I asked you Israel.
I condemn any rogue soldier shooting an innocent child in the head.
Yeah. So any soldier. That's fine. In the context of Israel having done that, will you condemn Israel? That's my question.
No, I condemn the soldiers. That's not Israel's policy. I know. I listen enough to Israel's military. They have no policy of shooting kids in the head. I was there. I saw a lot of military people with guns, and nobody was shooting at kids in the head when I was there. So I can testify they don't shoot kids in the head.
Did you go to Gaza?
I didn't go to Gaza.
You didn't go to Gaza. So this is happening in Gaza, not the West Bank.
Okay.
In the West Bank, they are killing children as well. I'll bring out those articles. But in Gaza, in the context of what this doctor stated on Democracy Now!, there is a systematic mass-scale accounts of Israeli soldiers shooting children in the head under the principle of command responsibility, which means it goes up to the higher level. It's not just a rogue, aberrant soldier. It means it goes up to on the principle of command responsibility. Their authority, those in authority, basically kill them. Now, if they are being shot under the basis of command responsibility, will you still state that you do not condemn? Like, I'll give you an example. In South Africa, the apartheid sold in the apartheid South Africa, South African soldiers in white apartheid South Africa shot dead blacks in many instances. Not as bad as in Israel, but shot dead. You had the Boipatong massacre, you had the Soweto massacre, you had the Bishop killings. Will you condemn apartheid South Africa for what these soldiers do, or you just simply condemn the soldiers?
No, I would condemn that.
Would you condemn
you have
South Africa,
you have no proof. You're just saying that this came from nobody, no generals. You got to prove to me that a general told the soldiers on in the battlefield, shoot those little kids in the head, and I don't think you'll see that in writing anywhere.
That's been documented. That's been documented in the latest.
Show me. You're making it up.
Where?
You're making it up. You're making it up. You're making it up.
Okay.
Show me a general. Show me a military authorization of shooting little kids in the head.
I'll get you busted again.
Bust me. I want to be busted.
Yeah, you want to hear your voice.
Show me. Show me. You're making it up.
A 5,000-page report where they document the actual official
report. Show it to me. Show it to me. You're just making it up.
I'll open it up. I'll open it up for you. Okay, if I open it up, will you condemn it? If I open it up,
it's not there. No, you're making it up. You just make things up.
So this never happened. So
general. This is. Listen to me. No general has issued an order of any Israeli soldier to shoot little kids in the head.
Is that what you're saying?
That's what I said. Now you show me the page on the 5,000-page report that said we want you soldiers to go ahead and shoot little kids in the head.
Here we are. Here we are. I don't know if I can share this particular page, Mohammed. Here we are. Here we are. Here we are. Just trying to share this here. And if I show it to you, will you call yourself an idiot?
No, I'm going to call you an idiot.
Because if I show you,
I'm going to prove that it's not a general issuing an order to. I will prove to you it's not a general in the IDF army issuing a command for soldiers to shoot little innocent kids in the head. I will prove it to you.
So under
Show me the page. Show me the page. Show me the page. Show me the page. You're lying. You're not telling the truth.
Yeah. Okay. Let's open it. Let's open it and call out Matt for the scumbag that he is. Let's open it because you call me an idiot.
You're the scumbag. You're the one who's calling for the destruction of Israel. You should be arrested. You should be in jail.
This is from the international. Red Cross. This is an article by Professor Emeritus Barak. Here's it here. Preemptive strikes. The general normative framework. Here's it here. This is the International Committee for the Red Cross.
Where's the article from the general, from the IDF? Show me the IDF head. You're a liar. You are such a liar. You're a liar. Joseph, you're lying. Where's the report?
Here we are.
Go ahead.
Here we are.
Read it. You want to read it?
I'll read it. I'll read it out for you. Let me open this up. Let me open this up.
Give me the name of the general who issued the order.
Yoav Gallant.
He wrote this, right?
No, he didn't write that. This is, you see what an idiot.
Oh, he didn't write it. You're such a liar. You're such a liar.
You are. Committee for the Red Cross. This is a report for the International Committee of the Red Cross, which basically states that these actions.
Joseph, you're a liar. You're a liar. Just prove that you're a liar. Joseph, give it up.
Share this with him. Yes, I'm gonna read the screens here because I'm trying to share the screens here. Here's it here. Here we are. Mohammed, how do you share this PDF? It's a PDF which is by the report by the by the ICJ, because I've got the quotations here in front of me.
If you share the screen, you can do it like that. I don't know how you can PDF it.
I've got your expressions of genocidal intent against the Palestinian officials by Israeli state officials. Can I read it out? Can I read it out to you? Okay, let me read it out. Okay, let me read it out here. This is a time. This is basically now let me give you the prelude. The question has been asked at the International Court of Justice for evidence of Israeli state officials' specific intent to commit and persist in committing genocidal acts or to fail to prevent them has been significant and overt since October 2023. And here's a list of quotations that have been given, and I'm going to read them out, and you tell me if I'm wrong or not, because I can't show them on the screen, by number 1, the Prime Minister of Israel, number 2, the President of Israel, number 3, the Israeli Minister of Defense, number 4, the Israeli Minister for National Security, number 5, the Israeli Minister of Energy and Infrastructure, number 6, the Israeli Minister of Finance, number 7, the Israeli Minister of Heritage, number 8, the Israeli Minister of Agriculture, number 9, the Deputy Speaker of the Knesset and member of the Foreign Affairs and Security Committee, number 10, the head of Israel's Army Air Operation Group, and number 11. So let me read them out. Once I read them out, you can basically comment if I'm lying, because you call me a liar. The comment statement made and attributed to Netanyahu on October 28, 2023. And I'll go through these 10 statements, and I'm going to ask you whether I'm a liar or you're living in a fairy tale delusional world. As the Israeli forces prepared to invade Gaza, the Prime Minister, when addressing the Israeli soldiers, basically told them that you must remember what Amalek has done to you. And we do remember. The Prime Minister again referred to Amalek in a letter sent on this 3rd of November 2023 to the Israeli head of the army, and with the particular notion that the relevant biblical passage reads as follows: now go attack Amalek and prescribe all that belongs to him, spare no one, but kill alike men and women, infants and suckling, oxen and sheep, camels and ass. That was documented by the South African application in the International Court of Justice. This was quoted by our counsel, and they actually played the Hebrew terminology and was then translated for them. On 15th of October 2023, the President of Israel told the foreign media that we will uproot the entire Gaza, so there will be good for the entire region and the world. But the Israeli president then basically put that in a handwritten message on a bomb that was to be dropped on Gaza. Number 3, the Israeli Minister of Defense, Yoav Gallant, when the Israeli troops were entering the Gaza border just at the end of October, he stated and he gave them indications that they are to remove, and this is in Hebrew, and I can go and give you the Hebrew text to see if I'm mislying, but this is documented by my South African government in the application at the ICJ. He quoted and stated that you are to release all restraints. Gaza should not return to what it was before. We have to eliminate everything. If it doesn't take 1 week, it will take 1 month. If it takes weeks or even months, we will reach all places. There should be no food. There should be no water. There should be no electricity. We should eliminate everything. Number 4, more extreme, on the 10th of November 2023, Itamar Ben-Gvir, who is the Israeli Minister for National Security, stated, when he basically mentioned in the Israeli Knesset, he stated the following: to be clear, when we say that Hamas should be destroyed, it also means that those who celebrated, those who supported, those who voted, and those who hand out candy, whether they are the descendants of those who voted or not, they're all terrorists and they should all be destroyed. Meaning, if your father voted for Hamas and you may be a 17 or 16-year-old, they view you as a potential terrorist, they should be gone. But now here's the most important thing. The Israeli Minister of Energy and Infrastructure on 13th of October 2023, Israel Katz, he stated the following. He says, all the civilian population in Gaza is ordered to leave immediately. If they do not leave, we will kill them. We will win. They will not receive a drop of water or a single battery until they leave the world. On 8th of October 2023, Bezalel Smotrich, the right-wing Israeli Minister of Finance, stated, we need to deal a blow on Gaza that hasn't been seen in 50 years and take down the entire Gaza, regardless of who resides there. On the 1st of November 2023, the Israeli Minister of Heritage, Amishai Elihu, he posted on Facebook, and he then removed it from Facebook. He says that the north of Gaza and the central of Gaza is more beautiful than ever. Everything is blown up and flattened and killed, simply a pleasure for the eyes. We must talk about the day after. In my mind, we will hand over lots to all those who fought for Gaza over the years and to those who evicted from Gush Katif, that's a former Israeli settlement in Gaza. On the 11th of November 2023, Avi Dichter, who is the Israeli Minister of Agriculture, he stated that we are now actually rolling out the Gaza Nakba, which should be worse than the Nakba of 1948. On the 7th of October 2023, the Deputy Speaker of the Knesset and member of the Foreign Affairs and Security Committee, Nissam Vaturi, he tweeted, "Now we all have one common goal, erasing the Gaza Strip and everybody who resides therein from the face of the earth. Those who are unable will be replaced." On the 28th of October 2023, the head of Israeli Army's Air Operations Group, his name is Lieutenant Colonel Gilad Kinan, he described the Air Force and the killings that are going on there. He says, and this is a quotation given by him, as all of us working together with all the bodies in the IDF is clear to destroy everything and anything that exists in Gaza and destroy everything that has also been touched by the hands of Hamas. Now, these are quotations that are forming part of the document in a 95-page application that was brought before the International Court of Justice by my government. One of the professors who presented the case taught me international law. It was Max Duplessis and Professor John Dugard. These are by no means pro-Hamas supporters because they condemned Hamas in the very same application. But they went into a laborious expansion of all these quotes, which are basically atomized for the short time that we've given here. And they go into further quotations. I'll email you the entire application. It's a 95-page application. But more than that, they've now supplemented it with a 5,000-page annexure document detailing all the war crimes. So my question, in light of what you just said a few minutes ago, will you retract your statement and call yourself the delusional liar and delusional person living in a cloud cuckoo land for what you are, in light of the fact that I gave you 10 quotations directly from the highest level within the Israeli military establishment and governmental establishment? So when you take these quotations and you juxtapose that with actual atrocities and war crimes and soldiers shooting Palestinian children in the head, can you see the nexus between the two? Or are you too blind and deaf not to hear and witness what I basically be? Because you call me a loud liar. I gave you 10 particular quotations, which form part of the documentation in the International Court of Justice. So if you're ignorant and didn't know about this, be humble enough and say, look, I didn't know about this, but thank you for educating me on this point.
Absolutely not. You're a liar because none of those 10. Yes, you are. Listen to me. Let me talk. Joseph, you're a liar because out of those 10 statements, none of them say, that you need to be shooting kids in the head, because I watch videos day after day of little Palestinian kids playing in the rubble. So if they're supposed to be shooting little kids in the head, they're doing a really crummy job of it, because there's a lot of kids out there having a good time playing in the rubble, and none of them are getting shot in the head. Now, my question to you is, all those 10 statements say nothing about you. You won't let me talk because you are a liar. You're an idiot. You're calling for the destruction of Israel, and you should be in prison. You should be in prison until you change your mind. You can't. You can't. Hold on, Matt. Look at the biblical. Let's go.
You said. I gave you, wait, let's clarify. I'm going to let you talk. But you said, firstly, I gave you the Democracy Now! Report about the soldiers shooting children.
You won't let me talk because you're a liar. You're caught. You're an idiot. You're just creating hate.
Can you show me? Okay, are we both going to talk? I just want to clarify the point. I gave you the Democracy Now! Report showing the Israeli soldiers shooting children in the head. You then asked me, can you show me a quotation attributed to someone high up, like a military
None of those 10 statements say you shoot the kid in the head. None of those.
No, I gave you 10 quotations. They're not going to say that. They basically stated that, look, you are to kill everything before you. Yoav Galan basically states you are to destroy everything that breathes in Gaza. This is the Minister of Defense. He's now been
You're
fired.
You're a simpleton. You won't let me talk. Let me talk. Let me have 30 seconds. Can you give me 30 seconds?
I'll give you 1 minute. I'll give you 1 minute.
Please. Okay. No talking. No disruption. Okay. Quotation number 1, Alamech. You got to go to the biblical story if you're going to know what it's about. It's none of those. So Amalek is something that God did to those people. And if you look at the verse that was not quoted, it's God is issuing his vengeance upon Alamech because they are evil people that have been destroying the people around it. And so when God said destroy Amalek and all its people and all its women and children and animals, there was a really good reason. They were diseased. They had sexual diseases. They had no hospitals, no medicines to help them. The only way to cure the evilness of Amalek was to take them all out by the sword. So the application for Israel in Gaza doesn't make sense because nobody has called for the extermination of Gaza residents. No, if any little kid's getting shot in the head, it's either by accident or by a rogue soldier. None of the IDF soldiers, generals, has ever called for the shooting of little kids in the head, and I stand by my statement.
You done? Are you done with what you're saying?
And it's accurate.
Let me teach you something. Let me teach you something. Firstly, since you never responded to Yoav Gallant or Itmar Ben-Gvir or Bezalel Smotrich or any of these particular individuals. They don't basically say, look, Israeli soldiers, I want you to go out and shoot children in the head.
Thank you for admitting you're a liar. Thank you.
An idiot. No, hold on. Hold on.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay, fine, pleasure. But they tell them you are to eliminate and get rid of these civilians. In other words, the war is not just simply limited to Hamas. They are to eradicate everything that is in Gaza. So the statements,
they're doing a crummy job.
Let me finish the point. So I let you speak. I didn't interrupt you. So will you shut up and let me speak, right?
Go ahead.
So basically, what they are saying, what the International Court of Justice, our council, did, is that to prove the case of genocide, you need to prove genocidal intent. And there's a particular clause for it, which is dolus specialis. The International Court of Justice now is investigating. They haven't made a final ruling, but they're investigating those quotations and the actual actions, because those are just a summary of the quotation, but there are many more. There's a whole, if I email you, if you send me your email, and next time you can come on this platform, so you've got the entire 95-page document, we can go through it systematically, just on that point alone, so we don't jump to other areas and we limit our talks to that. But what they show is that they fulfill the definition of dolus specialis, whereby you have a situation that Israeli soldiers are shooting, deliberately targeting Palestinian civilians, children and adults for that particular matter, and women. And then they juxtapose it, which the ICJ conceded that there's a plausible case for genocide that has been made out. You juxtapose that by basically looking at these various statements where these Israeli military leaders and Israeli politicians and leaders within the establishment directly and indirectly instruct the soldiers that there should be no restraint, and that unfortunately, if it means killing civilians, you are to kill civilians in general, because they make it clear when Yoav Gallant states you are to eliminate and get rid of everything that breeds in Gaza, and basically it means target all, meaning those who basically even voted for Hamas and their descendants, which would mean their children who are 17 or 18 or even 14 for that particular matter. The implications are quite clear. So one would be stupid to say, look, no, because it doesn't technically say you are to go and now shoot specifically children in the head. Therefore, it doesn't mean that there's a basis of command responsibility. No human being thinks in that particular line. But you attempted to respond to the claim of the Amalekite massacre. Since you claim to be Christian and you try to justify that, what you fail to realize is that the genocide of the Amalekites is unjustifiable. What 1 Samuel 15:3 basically states, where the commandment is Saul, I remember what Amalek did to you by the wayside during the Egyptian Exodus. And this was some 400 years before, how he ambushed you. That is 400 years before the ancestors, what they did to the Israelites as they were leaving Egypt, how they waylaid you, how they ambushed you. Now, some 400 years later, the command is, go and attack the Amalekites and destroy all that belongs to them. Put to death men, women, children, infants, cattle, and donkeys, camels and donkeys. So in other words, that's an unambiguous genocide, because you have a situation that God is commanding his people to slaughter an entire nation or group of people, the Yahweh, down to the very last infant. He leaves no room for mercy. Now, many people have argued, and I had this debate with William Lane Craig some years back, I think in 2010, where he attempted to justify the Amalekite massacre, and he wouldn't answer whether it's a moral atrocity or not, where the argument was being made that the Amalekites deserved this because they were evil. But does anyone believe that? And the question I want to ask is that, does anyone seriously believe that any nation or race of people, or more particularly the descendants of the original race that was originally ambushing the Israelites, are completely and irredeemably evil? Because it goes against a sense of logic. If you believe that every single one of those Amalekites, and this is the descendants of the Amalekites, was evil, do you think that that is true of any nation or any group currently? And if so, which group? And if there is none, then you'd have to be a hardcore racist to believe that. Because here you have a situation that were the infants evil? Were the cattle and donkeys and asses evil? Were the children evil? Were they stained with the evil of the parents? You have to be a sick, sadistic, satanic mind to basically believe that as a result of what their ancestors did 400 years before, therefore the children essentially have to die, and the babies have to die, and the donkeys have to die. This means that God is using the same justification for killing his enemies as Adolf Hitler did, who's basically considered to be one of the most evil people in history, Hitler. But even if the Amalekites were completely evil, the question would be, why would God order the infants killed? Babies are completely incapable of being good or evil, unless, of course, you believe in this original sin. But they have no concept of right or wrong. Their brains are not developed enough. They have no theory of mind. They cannot distinguish another person's thoughts and feelings. What about donkeys? Can donkeys distinguish good and evil? Are they basically engaging in evil? Were these little babies engaged in evil? But they have to be slit. Their throats have to be cut. Now, this is a moral dilemma that Christian fanatics have to reconcile. And I'm not debating the Bible. I can debate with you some other time whether the Amalekite massacre was a moral atrocity and whether the animals of the Amalekites could be possibly evil, unless you think that Bessie the cow could also be potentially evil. But that's not the point. The point is that Netanyahu particularly invoked the Amalekite massacre of all massacres in the Bible, and the Amalekite massacre involved and invoked the killing of infants and suckling and babies and animals and children and infrastructure. And that is exactly what is happening in Gaza right now. So therefore, in the International Court of Justice, the council looked at the Amalekite massacre, or rather the invocation of the Amalekite massacre, whatever spin you may give it to it, I'll grant you that spin, but the way it is spun and presented by Netanyahu, and you juxtapose the fact that it speaks about the killing of babies, and then you compare that in Gaza right now, they are the killing of babies, they are the killing of donkeys, they are the killing of infrastructure, they are the destruction and decimation of the entire land. If you'd be living in this is a kind of a fantasy, crappy fan fiction that you would have to invent, which would be designed to make the villain good, which you are attempting to do, and make the victim basically evil. There's no way that this particular kind of action can be justified. And the point is that you again went off on a tangent. Therefore, I had to call you out for your duplicitous double standard and hypocrisy and show you that, number one, the Amalekite massacre genocide was indefensible. But number two, whether you defend it or not, I'll grant that some apologists would want to defend it. The point is, Netanyahu invoked it, and he invoked it for a particular end. He invoked it specifically for a particular end. He could have invoked Numbers 31:17. He could have invoked other chapters which speak of the books of Joshua where there were wars against the enemies. But he particularly invoked 1 Samuel 15:3, the Amalek, because that's who the Israelis view the Palestinians are, the Amalek. And as the Bible says, killing babies, and in Gaza you see killing babies. If that nexus, you cannot see that, then there's something fundamentally wrong with you, Matt, as a human being, which makes you an immoral, evil, repulsive, dirty individual. I'm sorry to say that, Matt.
Do I get 3 minutes?
You can go ahead. Yes, I'll give you 3 minutes.
Okay, please. Okay, so let me respond to that. Number one, if IDF soldiers have been told to eliminate the Gaza people, they're doing a really crummy job, because again, I see little kids playing in the rubble all day long, and there's just video after video after video. So they're doing a really crummy job of killing the kids. Now back to the biblical story. Now, are you a Muslim? Okay, stop. Are you a Muslim? Yes or no? Do you believe in the Quran? Yes or no? Do you believe in the Quran? Yes or no? So
don't ask me questions. You want
do you
to
believe?
answer?
Hang on. You're not letting me talk. I just want a yes or no answer.
You don't ask me whether I'm Muslim or not. I'm giving you 3 minutes. So you either go ahead with 3 minutes, or if you ask me a question,
all right.
You.
Let me talk then. Let me have 3 minutes uninterrupted. Thank you very much. Okay. So Muslim, hang on. Let me talk. So Muslims believe that Noah flooded the earth and destroyed all people, including men, women, child, and infant, and animals. So number one, if Allah can do it, then maybe Yahweh can do it in the Bible. So you have that to feast on. And so think about this. So back in those days, sexual diseases and plagues were rampant. And so you have, after 400 years, the Alamitic whole tribe, the Amalekites, the whole tribe, thank you very much, they were totally into diseases. So they had diseases all over. So there was no hospitals, there's no medicine. The only way God could protect his people, the Hebrew people, from the Amalekites was by destroying them. So he had to destroy them, and that means men, women, children, animals. They all had to be destroyed. So that was God's protection. And it's the same way, you can do a same parallel with the flood. And so Islam says that Noah had built an ark, and so there was people saved. God saved some people, and the rest were destroyed. So God works that way. And then also, when we look at the Quran, in Quran 40:68, it says Allah causes death. He causes all death. So when it comes down to it, IDF soldiers do not kill. They do not commit genocide. It's Allah. It's a clear command or a statement in the Quran that says Allah, he causes all death. So when it comes down to it, who's culpable? It's not IDF soldiers, it's Allah. So Allah is the real culprit of the genocide in Gaza and the West Bank. It's not anybody else. You can only blame Allah for doing his duty, his deeds in Gaza by killing little kids and having soldiers shoot them in the head. So the real person who's to blame for all this genocide is Allah when it comes down to it. So you can check that out. Quran 46 chapter 40, verse 68 is very clear. I've quoted this many times to you, Yosef. You never respond to it because you don't believe it, or you just accept it, and you want to include Israeli soldiers in the genocide instead of just Allah. It's really clear. It's Allah's fault. It's Allah's culpable. Allah is the cause of all death. And if you try to say anything else, then you're not really a Muslim and you're going against the Quran. So that's my statement. I'm done.
Are you done?
Yeah.
So let's basically laugh at you. Regarding the allegations of the particular flood, I don't know, Muhammad, have you ever heard this kind of bizarre waffling in your life before I respond to this character?
I have a speaker's corner, unfortunately. It's a very lame duck argument. Whereas...
Yeah, the Quran is pretty lame, but the story's in the Bible too.
See how you laugh. Firstly, the Amalekite massacre, nowhere in... Let me just again educate you on this particular point.
Oh, educate me, please.
Let me educate you. Firstly, the Amalekites that were commanded in 1 Samuel chapter 15 verse 3 to be slaughtered, and that command given to Saul, were not the actual Amalekites that were involved in waylaying the Israelites some 400 years before. So the punishment that is to be meted out basically for the Amalekites were men, women, children, infant, suckling, donkeys, are to be basically murdered and slaughtered and their throats to be slit. is as a result of what their ancestors did 400 years ago, which means that Yahweh was either a sadistic, satanic God, this God of yours who you worship, he's a sadistic, sick individual human being, that some 400 years later, as a result of what the Amalekites did to the Israelites, he didn't command anything to happen to them. He didn't send a flood to destroy them or send an earthquake to swallow them up. But 400 years later, he goes and commands, even though God says, his mercy is everlasting. You find in the Bible many passages and references that God's mercy is indeed everlasting. Although we're not going into biblical exegesis this evening, although you want to introduce it, his mercy is everlasting. But some 400 years later, for something that happened 400 years before, he commands the killing of the children and the babies and the donkeys and the ass. Now you mentioned sexual defilement. Is there anywhere in the script, in the passage of 1 Samuel chapter 15 verse 3, which says that the babies were sexually defiled, which said that the infants were sexually defiled, which said that the infants were bastards, which said that the donkeys and the animals and the sheep and the bestiality being committed at that particular point, therefore you are to basically kill them? Because this is the example and the useless, pathetic, hopeless response and apologetic motif that has been given by Christian apologists to say, look, they deserve death, even the babies, because of basically the defilement and the evil and the sexual proclivities that were basically happening. Unfortunately, sir, for you, the Bible doesn't say that. The Bible doesn't say that at all. In that particular context, it doesn't tell the commandment, look, you are to kill these babies and to kill them because they are inherently evil and the sexual defilement and bestiality being committed by this lot, and even the children are sexually abused and tainted. And if a child is sexually abused, how sick is it and how satanic is it that you are now to go and murder the child that has been sexually abused for one particular reason? You're going to murder a child, for that matter, is raped. So what God is such a sadistic bastard, this Yahweh of yours, that he's going to give a command that even the babies and the infants need to be killed, that even the babies and infants need to be killed because they were sexually abused. If you use that argument, but that's not even the argument being made in the Bible. The argument being made in the Bible is what happened 400 years ago. 400 years ago, during the Exodus from Egypt entering into what they viewed as Greater Israel. Therefore, basically, as a result of that, you waylaid them, the Amalekites. Now, my command is to you, murder them all, slaughter them all. So your argument, again, doesn't stand. But I don't know why Christians want to engage in the most hopeless tactics in missionary tautology to justify this. So that deals with the Amalekite massacre. Regarding the passage about Surah Ghafir, it's not even worth basically responding to. In Surah Ghafir, Ayah 68. Basically, it refers to a general principle in life. He who gives life, it is He, Allah, who gives life and death. And when He decides upon an affair, He says, kun fayakun. It is He who gives life and He causes death in the ultimate sense. Whenever Allah decrees a thing, He only commands to it, be, and it was. And by the way, whoever wants to send messages like this, and as you can see, my phone beeping, come on this platform. Stop abusing me. Stop insulting me, those cowards out there. Be like Matt. I'll give him the credit, although he's confused and he doesn't want to show his face. He's a coward at that level, but at least he's bold enough to come on this platform. Stop sending me abusive messages on my phone. Just stop this behavior. This is how Israeli scumbags. I don't want to read out the insults here, but come on this platform. This platform is open. Challenge me directly. Why do you abuse my family and insult me like this on this platform? But that's the point. Be that as it may. Stop being a coward. Come on this platform. So what the Quran in Surah Ghafir states, sorry, that was an aside, states, is that in the ultimate sense, Allah is essentially the one who gives life, the one who creates life, and the one who creates death, in the ultimate sense. But this does not in any way mean that, for example, the human being lacks moral agency. It doesn't mean, and I've dealt with this in detail. There is a debate that I was involved in some years back with Dr. James White. I urge you to deal with this, where we deal with the aspect of qadr of Allah. It's called the predestination debate. It's called the predestination debate, and where I debate the entire concept of qadr within the context of Christianity and within the context of Islam. The idea from the Islamic perspective is that we do not believe in the whole notion of absolute predestination or fatalism. We don't believe in predestination or fatalism in any way, in the same way that the Calvinists obviously believe, because James White took the position in the Calvinistic context that there's no moral agency. So we believe that moral agency, and guys, please, I'm going to mute you guys. I'm going to mute this rubbish because you scumbags can't stop sending me abusive messages. I'm just blocking you on the phone. I'm just sick and tired of your garbage. Just get lost. So the moral agency is not excluded from the particular principle in Surah 40 verse 68, where by virtue of the fact that in the ultimate sense, Allah creates life and takes away one's life. This doesn't now mean that, look, if a murderer comes to your house and shoots you, now the murderer has no moral agency. Because it recognizes good and it recognizes evil. Yes, basically means that when someone dies, his soul will go to the Creator. So those Palestinian children that are dying, that basically the death and the soul reaches that of the Almighty. But the actual actions that are being committed, which in fact lead to their death, are not being caused by Allah. Allah doesn't tell the soldier, he doesn't tell Yoav Gallant or these satanic Israeli soldiers, go and now shoot these Palestinians in the head, or go and gang rape them to such an extent that they eventually basically end up dying. Yes, death and life are caused in the ultimate sense by Allah, but the actions leading to the eventual birth or the eventual death of the individual, those actions are not the exclusive domain of Allah or God for that particular matter. Those actions are the Israeli soldiers. So Matt's position, if he wants to create the so-called conundrum, is actually a problem that he should take up with the Calvinists. I don't know if you're a Calvinist, because within Calvinism, and I asked James White the particular question some years back, I asked him in a debate that if a woman is raped or gang raped, is this part and parcel of the decree of God? And he said, yes, it is part of the decree of God that a woman has to be gang raped. So from his perspective, he would argue that even the action of the individual is decreed by God. We basically say that action may be in the knowledge of God in terms of the potential of right and wrong that individual may adopt. But it doesn't now mean that by extension, it is God that is committing the actions. So whilst life on the one hand and death on the other hand are in the ultimate sense the preserve of God, the actions that are committed or the evil acts that are committed that may possibly lead to the life of an individual, meaning you rape someone and you make her pregnant, that life comes from God, but the act of rape is not of God. Or the action where you shoot someone or murder someone or stab someone to death, it leads to his death. Death can be the ultimate from God, but the action itself, the evil action, he doesn't lack moral agency, because death, in fact, ultimately is God's control and God's domain. So the actions do not in any way defeat the moral agency of the particular people that are engaging in these particular atrocities. So Matt, in his ridiculous fashion, quotes Surah 40, Surah Ghafir, chapter 40, verse 68. And he basically states that based on the fact that Allah creates life and he creates death, therefore, this means that the Israeli soldiers are not morally culpable for the actions leading to the death of the Palestinian children. But this is a childlike argument. This is an argument which is being made by an idiot. Only an idiot would make such a stupid argument. People will laugh at you, because within Christianity, and particularly the Calvinistic variety of Christianity, they go one step further. They say that even the action that leads to the death is basically in the control and decree and arbiter of God himself. We in Islam make that distinction. Our concept of qadr is not similar to fatalism, and the idea of predestination versus free will is far more nuanced in the particular Islamic worldview, and has been debated and written on at length by Islamic scholars. And this is not the forum for that particular debate, but I just want to teach you on that particular point. And that's why I never responded to you on Facebook, because it's a ludicrous argument. People will laugh at you. The third point you raised about the flood. What about Noah's flood? Well, even your own Christian polemicists confirm this point. People like this Scam Shamoon and what's this guy, Christian Princess. These idiots who are internet hooligans, they even confirm the point that from the Quranic point of view, the flood of Noah was a localized event. There are only two Mufassirin, if I'm not mistaken, that make the argument that it is possibly global. One is Ibn Kathir and the other is Ibn Abbas, the companion of the Prophet. But the vast majority of at least modern commentators in the world, people like Muhammad Asad, I'm wrapping up, but I need to teach you because this is my forum. I'm here to educate you, and you are the student. I'm your teacher. Myself and Muhammad are your teacher. The vast majority of commentators, modern, and in fact, a lot of classical commentators make the point that from the Quranic point of view, the idea given that it's not a global flood, it is a localized flood because of the fact that Noah was not sent to the entire world. Noah was a prophet sent to a particular community that rejected him in that particular area. And archaeologically speaking, there has never been historically any evidence of a global flood archaeologically, even though the Bible makes that fictional claim, which appears to be plagiarized from books like the Epics of Gilgamesh and the Codal of Hammurabi. From the Quranic point of view, it appears to be very local. But now the problem for me is, how do you tie up a localized natural disaster with basically Israeli soldiers raping and shoving up sticks up the arse of a Palestinian and gang raping Palestinian woman and shooting 335 bullets into one 5-year-old child by the name of Hind Rajab, or murdering disabled people and disabled children and setting their dogs on them? How do you contrast the two? I mean, if I were to ask you, we had the tsunami in 2004. The tsunami can be viewed, as some do, as an act of God, as a natural disaster. How on earth, unless you're an idiot and a fool with no logic, want to make an analogy and draw a comparison between, for example, a natural disaster and mass murder? I mean, it makes no sense. So I hope I teach you and you learn on this particular point. And if you want to, on the aspect of qadar and predestination, just check up on YouTube the predestination debate, Yusuf Ismail versus James White. I had a 3-hour debate with question and answers from the floor. We dealt with it at length. There was no comeback from James. Let me tell you that. There was no comeback from James. If you ever want to, I don't know what your debating credentials are, but if you want to debate with that on future, we can. That's not the debate for tonight. The debate for tonight is why you are so immoral in not condemning the Israeli genocide and the mass murder that is taking place, and bringing up all these fake analogies of natural disaster, of Noah's flood, of Allah causing death. Therefore, the Israeli soldiers cannot be morally culpable. I mean, this is not even an argument. This shows how a madman thinks, Matt. And I'm sorry for that. And I'm sorry for your ignorance. But you need to read. You need to go back to the boardroom and start studying and understanding basic human decency and morality. And then once you grasp that, then you can basically go into the realms of logic. Mohammed, anything you want to say?
Yeah, it's just quite profound, some of the ridiculous arguments that Matt brings.
I mean, I don't know what planet Matt lives on, but I mean, and whilst I'm talking, it's quite clear that I don't know if it's his guys. I won't say it's his guys, but I mean, I'm getting some of the most abusive WhatsApp messages. Whenever I do these programs, you don't have the guts to come on this platform, but you insult my mother, insult my family, insult my wife, children. You don't have the courage. Is this how people who are on the right part of history behave? I mean, if you are on the right side of history, why would you go out of your way to make verbal abuse against my family, against Muhammad's family, as has been done in the past, threaten me, when we haven't threatened anyone? We haven't threatened. We just come and rubbished these arguments being made by you. And Matt, I appreciate you coming on this platform, but I mean, you need to learn. You need to really learn.
There's some questions, Matt, if you don't mind asking. Answering from the audience. There's a question from Brother Mehdi Ahmadi. There's a question for you, Matt. Ask Matt if he's happy with the US sending arms as well as financial support to Israel, and should that be increased? I don't know if you see the question.
Yeah, I understand the question. Yeah, I don't know if the arms that United States. I am an American. I live in the United States. We just elected a new president, and he'll be taking office in January 20th. I don't know if Israel needs more weapons or should get more aid from the United States. I just don't know. I watch the news, I evaluate it. I don't know if we can justify giving them more arms. When it comes to diplomacy, I think Hamas and Hezbollah, they need to come to the table. Then if they come to the table and they lay down their arms, then of course, we won't need to send more arms or more aid to Israel. I would, yeah,
that's fine.
I would like. Can I say one more thing? Because Joseph was wrong. He misquoted Quran 40:68, and he said that Allah creates life and He creates death. That's wrong. That's totally a lie. Allah causes death. That's the translation. So I just wanted to make that point. You know, he can't. If you're going to invoke Qadar or predestination, you need to talk about adultery too, because Allah has predestined adultery, right? So that's in the Hadith. And then also, hang on, let me talk. Let me do 3 minutes.
No, I've just muted him for a second because I really want to stick on these questions, and he can come back later on opening another can of worms. So Matt,
let me talk. Give me 3 minutes. You guys are. I let you talk for so long, saying all kinds of lies. Let me talk for 3 minutes.
We're giving you, entertaining your garbage. It's our program. CP Christian Princess wouldn't have allowed you here. We're entertaining you, Matt.
And I'm catching you lying, and I'm telling you you're lying, and now you want to interrupt me, so I can't make my point. So let me.
We got questions for you. We want you to answer.
I'll answer the questions. Let me two more points. I wanted to say that.
Matt, you have ample time after the questions from the audience. You can continue. I'm not going to prevent you from speaking, mate. Don't worry about that. Just relax a bit. A second question is from the Silent Jackal. If Israel did to the US what they're doing to Palestine, would Matt support it on the basis that they use resources building military installations that aren't above ground? If you want to read out that question, Matt, feel free and answer it, please. But just stick on topic, and then I'll give you ample time to talk about other topics. But these are from the audience. Don't mind is responding to them, please.
Okay, I'm not a military expert. I don't know if Israel sank one of our ships during the 6-day war, and we didn't respond and attack Israel. So even though Israel, we were unprovoked, they attacked us. They sank one of our ships. They killed some American citizens, American soldiers. So I don't want to comment on something that is speculation. You want to ask me another question?
No, that's fine. We've got a guest on right now. I think he wants to ask you a question. Hassan, Assalamu alaikum. Brother, go ahead. Brother Hassan?
Yes, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Go ahead with your question.
Yes. Matt, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, Matt. With regards to the Amalek, the Amalek, how much have you read about their history? I'm talking before Exodus.
Well, I've read a lot about their history, but just because they did some atrocities 400 years before God issued His judgment on that tribe.
1 minute.
Go ahead.
1 minute, Matt. One step at a time. Okay. Right. So, do you know who they're descended from? They're also descended from Abraham, by the way, in case you didn't know.
I didn't know that, but that's fine with me. There's a lot of descendants of Abraham that are pagan. Go ahead.
Jacob's brother Esau. They're descended from Esau.
Right, and Abraham is also he came out of the Ur of the Chaldees, so he came out of paganism too. Go ahead.
Okay, Esau is the son of Isaac, the oldest son of Isaac, the firstborn.
Right.
Right. So I'm trying to show you a correlation here. All right. This idea that people have that the Amalekites were evil is a narrative of the Bible. You know what else is a narrative of the Bible? That Esau was unjustly treated by Jacob. Why? Because Jacob, according to the Bible, this is not our belief, by the way. Alhamdulillah, we do not believe that Yaqub alayhi salam would ever deceive his brother or anyone in that fashion, in that manner, would steal their rights. But that is the biblical narrative that Jacob stole the rights of Esau, as per the biblical narrative. Now, keeping that in mind, going forward post Exodus, and then going forward to Samuel 1:15. Tell me something. Do you not see a clear problem with this narrative? Do you not see that the evil itself, it doesn't start from the Amalekites, it starts from Jacob?
I do not see the evil in that. There is
You
all
don't
kinds
see
of
the evil.
hang on, you got to let me
You don't.
talk. You got to let me talk. If you don't let me talk, I can't answer you. Can I talk?
Matt, let me complete my question. Do you not see? Do you not see? Do you not see that the evil act was committed by the ancestors of the Israelites, not the Amalekites? So again, does the evil not start from Jacob?
Oh, I agree. Evil has been all part of the ever since Moses when they were worshiping idols. Of course, there's been evil in the Hebrew culture and then also around in the paganism. Go ahead.
Right. So tell me something. For someone like Netanyahu, who, well, Allahu alam, if he even believes in God or not, I don't know, and I honestly don't care to know. When someone like him quotes this passage, is he talking about the evil done by the Amalekites, or is he talking about the evil done by Jacob? Because if he's being consistent, then the evil itself started from Jacob and Rebekah, because Rebekah is the one who enticed her younger son to not only deceive her firstborn, but also her husband, aka Isaac, the progenitor of the Israelites.
Yeah, I agree 100%. But I don't see the analogy between Israel and the Amalekites. I think Netanyahu misspoke when he brought up the analogy, and I don't see anything in what I've seen or heard that said that Israeli soldiers are supposed to shoot little kids in the head.
Well, that's not the point. Go ahead, brother.
Yes, brother. No, brother. Please go ahead.
Go ahead. You can go ahead. I've spoken quite a bit on that, but you can go ahead.
Yeah, the thing is, Matt, when you're talking about a prime minister, okay, this is not someone who did 2 months of theology classes and just barged in running his mouth. A prime minister, okay, a leader of a country, when someone like that quotes a biblical passage, he's doing so with intent. He is doing so with a clear purpose, and that was to rile up his soldiers into committing unspeakable horrors. All right? Well, not unspeakable. We're speaking about them right now, but quite frankly, horrors. I mean, think about it. 5-year-olds getting detained, getting shot in the head, 2-year-olds. And you talk about children playing in the rubble. Well, what do you want? Do you want the idea of soldiers to pick off the ones they couldn't get to in the first place? I mean, come on, Matt, please think about what you're saying holistically. Come on, do yourself a favor and be
Have you been to
just.
Israel? Have you been to Israel? Have you been
I'm
to
Pakistani,
Israel?
Dude, I'm
Well,
Pakistani. I'm not.
yeah,
I
I've
don't
seen the
really
videos
care
from
to visit Israel.
Pakistan where the guy is a shoe manufacturer, and you Muslims took him out and you just beat him all to heck. You killed him. You know, there's atrocities that happen
Yeah,
all
I
over
can talk
in
about.
Pakistan and Israel.
Sure thing. I can talk about a lot of things I saw while I was living in Miami, Matt. That doesn't mean jack over here.
Did you see
All
anybody
right, you want
killed
to
in
go for
Miami?
one off?
Did you see anybody
Yeah,
killed in Miami?
yeah,
Who'd you see killed in
in the
Miami?
head, shot in the head.
Who?
Who? Who? A good friend of mine, shot in the head.
What were
Shot
you
in the head. He
doing?
wasn't even
Were you
Muslim,
robbing
by
a
the way.
store? What?
No, we weren't robbing stores. We weren't robbing stores. We were on our way. We were on our way back from work. We had just left the building at JP, and we were on our way back from work. A friend of mine gets the crap beaten out of him, and then gets
What did he do?
his wallet stolen.
Nobody beats somebody
We
up
were
just for no reason.
No, actually we were doing nothing. We were in suits, getting out of our workplace. We worked at JP Morgan back then, and we had to get back home to change. Here's the thing: we got robbed like crazy. Here's the kicker part: both of us had beards, and people could tell we're Muslim by a mile away. So, with due respect, Matt, don't get me started on your country. I lived 3 years in your country. I know exactly what you guys do. All right, don't get me
Really?
started. Now, leaving that useless bit of garbage behind, I'm just going to say this straight up, Matt. You have a tendency to break people off when they're speaking, when you know that there's a good point being made. I applaud you for keeping your mouth shut when Brother Yusuf was speaking. But at the same time, I have to tell you, when you spout nonsense, like the IDF soldiers are doing a quote unquote crummy job of killing kids, I gotta ask, man, what the hell do you think is a good job of killing kids? Do you
Well,
want
you
to wipe
take a
them off
gun
the
and
face
you
of the
shoot
map?
them all. They're playing out there in the open, and if they're supposed to be shooting them in the head, they're not doing it. How come they don't do it?
Okay.
Wow, 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 wow,
There's a
wow.
You
there's
only
a
have 13. Did you document 13
there's
kids with shooting?
there's a link to a video that I put in the chat that I put in the private chat that shows the IDF shot a 2-year-old in the head. Furthermore, there are testimonies by non-Muslims, British and American citizens, who have confirmed that the IDF specifically targeted children. So what else do you want? Huh? Do you want an IDF soldier to say that, hey, yeah, we targeted children? I've got that as well.
This
What
is
else
what
do
I
you want?
want.
Huh?
I want the hostages released. I want the hostages released, and I want Hamas to lay down their arms. That's what I want.
Well, Hamas has offered to release the hostages.
Netanyahu doesn't
Hamas has
want the
offered to
hostages
release the
released. He
hostages.
wants them killed.
Qatar won't even they
Hamas has
want Hamas
offered to
out.
release
Qatar,
hostages. Matt, you're an American, Matt. I need to shut you up here. Just 2 days ago at the United Nations General Assembly, just 2 days ago at the United Nations General Assembly, there was an offer on the table where Hamas had basically made the offer to basically release hostages unconditionally, provide there was an unconditional ceasefire that was spelled out. It was accepted by every single particular nation at the General Assembly. The one country that vetoed it was your country, the United States, and the hypocrite, the hypocrite that was sitting there, the proverbial house nigger there that was standing there. He's the one that picked up his hands and vetoed it. So you have a situation where Hamas is saying, we'll release all the hostages. And they made, this report has been going on from December, where they've repeatedly made offers that we will get the hostages released on condition you engage in a ceasefire. Israel has refused on all counts. In fact, in December, when there were those 3 hostages that were basically in some sort of superficial liberty and they were coming to the IDF shot them in cold blood. Investigative report was basically made that actually cleared them of any kind of culpability on the basis that they said they made a mistake. What was a mistake? These people were naked. They had the underwears on. They were running to the Israelis for assistance, and Israelis shot them dead. They actually weren't even running. They were standing up with their hands raised with a white flag stating, we want help, we need assistance. The Israeli soldiers shot them dead. Right now, Israeli soldiers are shooting and killing and bombing Israeli hostages inside Gaza. And right now, the Israeli hostage families have basically gone and attacked Netanyahu at the Knesset, stating he's got no concern about the hostages. So you're talking about hostages, but Israel is engaging in action, and the Israeli hostage families are stating that they're engaging in action which is not out to assist the hostages. In fact, they want to eliminate everything. They don't care about the hostages. So this whole canard that you want to put out, this so-called red herring, is rubbished and debunked by the very notion that Hamas has repeatedly made unconditional offers to release hostages on condition that there's a ceasefire in Gaza. Israel has refused that because they want to totally eliminate and destroy the entire Gaza. and they're killing
Hogwash.
hostages and now.
Hogwash.
So
You're lying. Why don't you tell the whole story?
I'm lying.
Yes, you're lying. The condition is that Israel needs to pull out of Gaza. The condition is Hamas is insisting for a ceasefire that all Israel soldiers pull out of Gaza. And that's the thing that Israel says, no. We pulled out of Gaza in 2005, and all that happened was military buildup in Gaza. So that's why there's no ceasefire. That's why there's no ceasefire. There's no ceasefire.
Okay, no. So
release the hostages, lay down your weapons, and then there'll be peace.
Here's the times of Israel. This is the times of Israel. Muhammad shared this. This is the times of Israel. This is, and this is not even now. This is 26th September 2024. U.S. frustrated, says ceasefire plan rejected by Netanyahu had been coordinated with him. So they coordinated a ceasefire agreement with Netanyahu, and Hamas agreed to it. And they agreed to the release of the hostages. And Netanyahu basically turned it down. It's White House officials said on Thursday.
They turned it down, rightfully so. Rightfully so. He turned it down because it said pull out all military. The ceasefire was a condition, pull out all military. Yes. That's the condition of ceasefire. Pull out all military.
And they
you can't do it. Israel can't do it. They won't do it.
And that the Prime Minister's office was now saying Netanyahu had never indicated he would back it. So, of course, I mean, why would Hamas agree to Israel being in control of Gaza? Why should they agree to that?
They need to because they need peace. They need peace. They need peace.
In terms of international law and illegal occupying,
they need peace.
Then may there be many 7th of Octobers. May there be then many 7th of October. You can have multiple 7th of Octobers in future years.
And there'll be more buildings destroyed, more civilians killed.
Whenever there's apartheid, there's going to be resistance.
You keep calling for the destruction of Israel, you're going to see more death and destruction. You'll see more death and destruction.
So this report shows you to be a liar. You haven't given us
You're a liar. You're saying you're ignoring the
Israel. I'm a liar, but I'm giving you the times of Israel. I'm a liar, but I'm giving you this report which says that Hamas agreed to the deal, but Netanyahu rejected it, even though initially he said he'll go ahead with it. So who's a liar there? You and Netanyahu, not me.
You are. You won't ignore. You ignore the ceasefire thing that says that IDF army has to pull out of Gaza. That's not a good solution.
So they must stay in Gaza. They must stay in Gaza perpetually.
So we agree?
They must stay in Gaza.
So we agree it's a bad deal to say that IDF soldiers have to pull out of Gaza.
Must they stay in Gaza? Must they stay in Gaza?
It's a bad deal. If Israel soldiers pull out of Gaza, Hamas will rearm.
Must IDF soldiers stay in Gaza?
Yes or no?
Must
the agreement.
Must IDF soldiers stay in Gaza? Yes or no?
The soldiers need to stay in Gaza.
Yeah, so then that means you've just violated international law and you are supporting a crime because that's been declared as a crime in terms of international law for a nation to illegally and continuously occupy another nation. That's a crime in terms of international law. So
you're not a nation.
As a Christian hypocrite,
Gaza's not a nation. Gaza's not a nation.
About a loving Jesus and peace.
Gaza's not a nation. Allah caused all the death. Allah caused all.
The occupation has to continue. The Holocaust in Gaza has to continue. It's shame on you, and shame for your immorality. You're an immoral, evil man. I'm sorry to say that, Matt. You want to continue the occupation. October 7th was because of the illegal occupation. You want to extend it further. Shame on you.
Assalamu alaikum. Let me ask this KKK member a quick question. So, quick question for you, Matt. Quick question for you, Matt. What do you think about your forefathers that were feeding the African Americans to alligator as an alligator bait? Do you think that is moral or immoral? I just want to know where you stand on that. Feeding African American babies to the alligator as an alligator bait. Do you think this is a moral act or immoral act?
It's immoral and comparing what the Muslims did to the
Brother,
West African slaves in the Zayed rebellion. Do you know what the Arabs had more slaves than the United States?
Don't deflect.
Don't deflect. I'm saying, didn't you hear my answer?
Hassan, 1 second. Don't
I didn't deflect.
I asked you a quick question. I know you're a KKK member. So since you've actually confirmed you're a KKK member, you understand?
You're a liar.
So
I didn't.
One second.
Why? Who's KKK?
Hey.
You're a liar. Stop lying. I'm not. I never said I was KKK.
1 second. You're a KKK member. Based on your
You are a KKK member.
1 second. I'm an African and I'm proud
of it.
Listen,
I'm American. I'm proud of it.
Listen to the question and answer directly. Your
Stop lying. Don't tell me I'm KKK.
Can I ask the
Apologize for saying I'm KKK. Apologize for saying I'm KKK.
Nation, we don't care.
Can I ask the question?
Sure.
So what do you think about your great-grandparents that fed babies, little African-American babies, to the alligators and alligator pigs? Is this a moral action or immoral action?
My great-grandfather came from Norway. They didn't own slaves.
Dude, I asked you a question. Do you
I
think
answered you. I answered you.
To alligators, their babies.
I answered you.
Think this is
I answered you. Show me a picture of people being fed to alligators. Show me a picture.
Do you think this act is moral or immoral?
People being innocent people being thrown to alligators is immoral.
It's immoral.
Yeah.
Okay, you could have said that right away. I don't know why you were shoveling around, dancing around like
you said your question.
Bro, I have another question. I just have 2 questions for you. Can you give me the key to your house?
What?
I need the key to your house.
That's a stupid question.
It's stated in my scripture that your house belongs to me. God gave me your house in my scripture. You can see how foolish
your house does not belong to you.
Exactly. You can see how foolish that sounds. You better go back to school and take that white privilege of your brain, okay?
White privilege. Yeah, right. Okay, tell me all about it. Because my grandparents came from Norway, and so that's a crime. And so your great-grandparents came from where? Africa? Did you know that
Hey, I'm an African, and I'm proud of it. Yeah.
Are you proud that the Arabs kept you as slaves? Are you proud that the Arabs kept you as slaves?
Can I finish? And
you should finish. You're not.
I'm proud of it. What your
Thank you for being proud.
Like someone like King Leopold that came to Congo to kill 10 to 20 million Congolese, which I think is your role model. What he did is what you should be criticizing here. What you're doing here now is another white people or other group of white people that are pretending to be Jews in Israel, killing more people of color. You coming here to applaud them is what you should be ashamed about. You genocidal maniac.
Yeah.
What's your question?
You brother, thank you for that. Mohammed, I just want to raise something before we engage further. If you can just share, I'm going to go down the screen. This is from the Middle East Eye, but it was basically covered by The Guardian. And the question by Miranda Cleland: why do Israeli soldiers kill so many children in the West Bank? Because they want to and can. And this was on the 10th of September 2024, 2 months and 2 weeks ago. This is basically not in the Gaza Strip, but the new reports are highlighting dozens of chilling cases in which Israeli forces have deliberately targeted Palestinian children since October 7th in the West Bank. Last month, this is in September, launched the largest invasion of the occupied West Bank. And it goes on, 20% of all Palestinian children killed in the West Bank since 2000 have been killed by Israeli forces and settlers at a rate of 1 child every 2 days, according to a new report released by Defense for Children International Palestine, where I work as an advocacy officer. The report is entitled Targeting Children, Palestinian Children Killed by Israeli Forces and Settlers in the Occupied West Bank, documents and analyzes 141 cases of Palestinian children killed between 7th of October and 31st of July. This is on the West Bank, not Gaza. It goes on to state that since October 7th, Israeli forces and settlers have shot and killed 116 children in the occupied West Bank with live ammunition. 90% of them were shot in the head torso, or multiple areas, clearly demonstrating an intent to kill. It goes on into aspects of blocking medical aid. Then it gives of an individual account of, for example, an Israeli drone-fired missile striking brothers in the Al-Farah refugee camp as they sat on the roof of their home. No Hamas. They were killed instantly. After the Israeli drone strike hit the two boys along with their father and older brother, Israeli forces detained Palestinian ambulances and paramedics attempting to reach them. So obviously you have a pattern here. There's a prevention of medical aid after children have been shot. The report goes on to say that in 43% of our cases in the report, Israeli forces deliberately blocked ambulances, paramedics, and civilians from reaching Palestinian children wounded by Israeli soldiers by firing or threatening to fire live ammunition. Each time, Israeli forces blocked medical aid just long enough to confirm that the children and the child had bled out and died. Targeting childhood is based on the evidence collected by DCIP's courageous field researchers in the occupied West Bank, who meet families on the worst day of their lives to document the deliberate killing and execution of children. So here you've got a report from the Middle East Eye, which is also confirmed and reproduced in the Guardian British newspaper, where you have this deliberate targeting to the extent that these forces even let them bleed to death and prevent the ambulances. And you've got characters and nutcases and nutters like Matt and others and Anam and other people that have come on that say, well, show me where the soldier says shoot them in the head. I mean, come on, stop being in South Africa we call such people moffies. Moffies are the effeminate cowards, like a someone that's basically bold on the outside, but when confronted with facts and the strong man in front of him, he petters down like a coward. So the reality can't be denied. And I think the people out there need to see that we are faced with evil people in this world to such an extent that they will make all forms of excuses to justify the worst type of possibility. And right now, Gaza is on a scale that has been mentioned by international lawyers, not me, I'm biased, by international lawyers, as reaching a scale similar to what the Khmer Rouge did in Cambodia. Under Pol Pot, the killing fields of Pol Pot, year zero, check up year zero, the silent death of Cambodia. Go and see what happened in Cambodia and the genocide that was never declared a genocide, by the way, Cambodia, but the entire world knows it was a genocide. But it's reaching the stage, and the death rate and the kill rate in Gaza in the initial stages of the war at the very first 4 or 5 months was equivalent to the kill rate in Rwanda. So therefore, not surprisingly, the Lancet, unlike the Hamas health ministry, which many people place scourge on, the Lancet, the medical journal, have estimated that right now close to 110,000 Palestinians may possibly have been murdered by Israel. I mean, you're dealing with extremely either delusional ignoramuses or utterly evil people who are denying the reality of what is basically happening on the ground. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, spoken a lot. We got a question. Matt's back. We got a question from Matt from the audience, and then from there we're going to move on to Mike. So Matt, thank you for joining us again.
Sure.
Matt, can you see the question there? Can you see it on the screen?
No, I don't see it.
Okay, ask Matt.
Ask Matt what he thinks about the Yemenites, children being kidnapped in Israel by white European Israelis during the years of the State of Israel. I don't know anything about Yemenites.
Okay, fair enough, mate. No, that's fair enough, Matt. Appreciate that honest answer. We got Mike joining us now. Mike, I know you're like sitting on the fence here because you're not a Muslim. You're a person of no faith. What do you think of today's discussion? Feel free to talk, Mike.
Well, sorry, I joined very recently. I was watching a Florida game. We beat Ole Miss. Go Gator. As we used to chant Gator bait, but that's not allowed anymore. I thought that was an interesting urban legend your one guy brought up. Obviously, it would be immoral to use any baby as Gator bait. He was saying feed them to the Gators, but that's not really what the legend is. You would tie the baby to a rope, throw it in the water, and try to get the gator to chase after it so you could kill the gator and eat it. But it was interesting. Matt asked him several times what he thought of the Arabs enslaving Africans, and he never answered. I get this a lot from Muslims. I think what's going on in Gaza is horrific. I do think it is a genocide. I do find it ironic that in 2004 through 2007, I think it was George W. Bush called the atrocities in Darfur a genocide, and the UN stood up against them and said, no, this isn't a genocide. The Muslims said it wasn't a genocide. However you say that word, John Wadid, the Arabized Africans who were killing people, stuffing them in wells to poison the water and raping women. There doesn't ever seem to be a lot of self-reflection among Muslims. They like to throw things at the West, and the West has done horrible things. There's no doubt. You did bring up Khmer Rouge, not that they are Western, but you look at Stalin and Hitler and all sorts of atrocities happened throughout humanity. But Muslims never seem to want to own up to their own atrocities. Joseph, I think I mentioned the Battle of Al-Harar once when we were on, and it just kind of gets glossed over. So I don't know. How do you reconcile all these Muslims acting so poorly? I mean, look at the Yazidi. I think, didn't they just find a Yazidi girl in Gaza who was, I guess, sold to a Hamas fighter? She's 21. She was like 11 when kidnapped. It's been 10, 11 years since the attack on Mount Sinjar. So I'm wondering what you guys think about those atrocities. Are those rooted in Islam? Is it an evil ideology that causes them, or just evil people?
Is that your question?
So can I answer quickly before you take over, Brother Ismail?
I just want to cover something, brother, before I let you answer. This is no longer shared. It's just the previous question that what's his name, Matt, never knew about. But let me just educate him on this particular point, and then we'll come to Mike. This was on the screen, yeah, Brother Muhammad. If you can just put it again on the screen, I've just enlarged it. What the question was asking whether Matt would be bold enough in condemning the Yemen. What he actually was talking about was the Yemenite children affair. If you got on the screen, it refers to the disappearance mainly of Yemenite, meaning Arab Jewish babies and toddlers of immigrants in the newly founded state of Israel from 48 to 54. The number of children ranges from about 1,000 to 5,000. Majority of immigrants arriving during the period were from Yemen, with considerable numbers coming from Iraq, Morocco, Tunisia. According to the law estimates, 1 in 8 children of Yemenite families disappears. Very much like in Australia, you had the Aborigine families and even in Canada now, a friend of mine, Dr. Sabrina Ghaffar Siddiqui, she informed me that, in Canada, the American Indians, they were what they call the missing children, where they documented statements where these children were stolen and killed in many instances, and just simply disappeared. And this was at the founding of the state of Israel, and this was done by white Israelis, meaning the Ashkenazi Jews that were involved in this particular kind of activity and fully known to the Israeli state. So they basically wanted to get rid. And even today, if you're talking about today, Ethiopian Jews at the lowest level of the ladder in Israeli society, a so-called democracy. It's not a democracy. It's an apartheid regime. But right now, Ethiopian Jews, over the years, have been forcibly sterilized because they do not want the population of black Ethiopian Jews to increase. Just like they do not want they won't give the Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank the vote. Matt is obviously ignorant about. There's a deliberate policy where Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank will not get the vote. The reason for that is that if they do get the vote, Israel as a state will cease to exist. The apartheid Israel will no longer exist. Every man will have, I support the idea of every man having a vote, one man, one vote, which is what Hamas was calling for, which is what the Palestinian Authority was calling for, which is what Palestinian people and even Israeli liberals like Gideon Levi and Israeli human rights organizations like B'Tselem have been calling. Why not have a single state? Forget West Bank, forget Gaza. If Israelis want to live in Gaza and the West Bank, by all means go. But then Palestinians from Gaza can now go into Tel Aviv and build their houses. And Palestinians from West Bank can enter, East Jerusalem and the northern Israel and the southern areas like Kibbutz Be'eri and build their homes, have one man, one vote. But I just wanted to share this. This is called the Yemenite Children Affair, where children who were Arab children, Yemeni children, were disappeared. And this disappearance was at the behest of the founders of the State of Israel and done by white Israeli Europeans, European action, just like how they're doing it to the how the Ethiopian Jews are discriminated today. Because there's a massive uproar. If you see a white Israeli marrying there was a video I saw, I can't share it now, marrying a black Ethiopian Jew, there's a massive uproar, which means it goes to show that white Israeli society is fundamentally racist, even amongst their own community, even amongst the Jews, let alone the Palestinians. Just wanted to share that. Sorry, brother, you can go ahead.
No, just to address what's his name said earlier.
Matt.
Yeah, is it no, not Math? What's his name? I mean, the gym guy. Sorry about that, Mike. So pretty much, essentially, for you to come here and think you can teach us our history as an African is just laughable. Did some Arabs commit some atrocity in the past? Hey, I'm a Muslim. God told us to be just. You understand? If they did something, we condemn it. This is the difference between we Muslims and you non-believers. You understand?
Okay,
If
so
the
you are
Muslims-
so you
Can I
are
finish?
condemning it.
Can I finish? Yeah, so if a Muslim does something bad, I'm going to categorically condemn it and condemn the action. This is different between me and you. I don't go out there and start justifying criminal acts like you and your friend here, Math, justifying killing babies and all kind of things. You understand? So if you want to know what your great-grandparents did to my people, you need to go to the slave ports, go to Badagry, Lagos, Nigeria, go to the slave port in Ghana, go to Gorée Island in Senegal, and go there, and it will change your mindset. It will give you a little bit of human feelings for you to come out here and not have a little bit of human feeling for babies getting killed or blown up, or babies in an incubator in the hospitals with them taking off or cutting off the electricity. Are you coming here to actually sling mud at Muslims and all that? If Muslims have done something bad in the world in the past, be it black Muslim, be it Arab Muslim, I condemn it. This is different between me and you. But for you to come here and try to double down on the action of your people in the past and what your people are still doing on an ongoing basis, globally, going to Iraq to slaughter 1 million people, going to Afghanistan to slaughter hundreds of thousands of people because of the name of oil, going to Yemen, blowing people left and right, in the name of colonialism, going to, Australia, New Zealand, calling it Abo Hunt, hunting for aboriginals. And you are on here spreading all kind of stupid civilization all over the world. I mean, acting like you guys are the moral people. Please go pick up a book and read. Travel out of US for a second. Go to Africa and see what your great grandfathers have done to my people. It will open up your mind and you'll be educated.
Just to be clear, you are condemning the Arabs enslaving Africans.
Dude, do you have a sellotape in your ear or what? I said, if
you said you condemn them doing bad things. I don't know what the bad things are. I'm just asking you.
You asked the question.
You condemn the Arabs enslaving Africans.
Hey, listen. You asked the question and I answered you earlier. I don't know if it went into your right ear. Can I finish? Can I finish? I mean, I don't know if you've been drinking today, but you got to calm down. I said,
oh, might not come.
Can I finish? The obligation I have is to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and Almighty Allah. And the obligation is to be just. If an Arab have enslaved my people, or my people have enslaved my people, that's contrary to the teaching of Islam, I condemn it. This is the difference.
Israel allowed slavery. What are you talking about?
Matt, that doesn't. I'm not sure.
Can I finish? Can I finish?
Please finish.
Islam allows slavery. Muhammad had slaves.
Can I finish? Can I finish? This is the problem. This is the problem with you guys.
Brother, I think what's happening? These guys, brother, can I just come in, Ridwan? I don't know what your name is, but Yeah, but we need to go. Just I just want to address these things because they will drag you into red herrings. Matt was basically asking me at the beginning, I never had the time, about 2019 being a peaceful year. Well, this is a Human Rights Watch report, World Report of 2019, in relation to Israel. I don't know if it's still on the screen, Brother Mohammed, which states in 2019, the Israeli government continued, because we're bandering around alligators and this and that. Yeah, let's stick to the issues of the program. We can have debates later. The Israeli government continued to enforce severe and discriminatory restrictions to Palestinians' human rights in the Gaza and West Bank. Israeli forces stationed on Israeli side, the fences separating Gaza and Israel, responded to demonstrations for Palestinian rights on the Gaza side with excessive lethal force. Between March 30th and November 2019, security forces killed 189 Palestinian demonstrators, including 31 children and 3 medical workers, and wounded more than 5,800 with live fire. Demonstrators threw rocks and Molotov cocktails used to slingshots to hurl projectiles and launch kites bearing incendiary materials, which caused significant property damage to nearby Israeli commentaries, and at least one instance fired towards Israeli soldiers. But officers repeatedly fired on protesters who posed no imminent threat to life, pursuant to expansive open fire orders from senior officials that contravene international law standards. So you see that, Matt? You are asking here, this is a report from Human Rights Watch, the World Report of 2019. You had the audacity to basically said, well, give me the order. Where does it say? Here's it. Your officers, that's soldiers, reportedly fired on protesters who posed no imminent threat to life, pursuant to expansive open fire orders from senior officials that contravene international human rights law standards. In May, the United Nations Human Rights Council set up a commission of inquiry to investigate the events in Gaza. This is before October 7th, with a view to identifying those responsible, including in the chain of command, and ensuring accountability. The Israeli army also launched intermittent air and artillery strikes. And here, they don't care. They killed 37 Palestinians between March 30th and November 2019, including 5 civilians. Palestinian armed groups fired 1,138 rockets and mortars indiscriminately towards Israel from Gaza as of November 13, after the attacks by Israel, a major increase over previous years, killing 1 person and injuring 40, including civilians. So this report is not a biased report. It looks at both sides, and it basically essentially also goes on to say that these rockets were essentially artificial. They were basically glorified firecrackers, in a manner of speaking. But the point being made is that the rockets and the artillery from the Palestinian armed groups come after November, as of November 13th, long after Israel was opening fire and killing civilians. And this goes again and debunks the lies and the propaganda and the brainwashing of Matt, where he said before October 7th, everything was peaceful. Yes, let me finish the point. So here's the point, is that Israel engaging.
You're doing word salad.
I'm doing word salad. I'm giving you facts from the Human Rights Watch, and you're saying I'm doing word salad. I'm reading the exact report.
You won't let me talk.
I'm reading the exact.
You won't let me talk.
But I haven't finished the point I'm making. I'll let you speak. The point I'm making is that you had the audacity to say that before October 7th, everything was peaceful. You had the audacity to say that you were there in 2019 and everything was peaceful. I'm sharing with you the Human Rights Watch report as of 2019, which documents the actual killing of Palestinians by Israeli snipers under command responsibility and under the guise of the officials that are giving them the military command. This is what Human Rights Watch is saying. I'm not reading. You're saying I'm doing word salad. I'm reading the exact pointers here, and you're saying I'm making up word salad. So I'm saying that this again debunked. You haven't come with any facts to the table. You've come with lies. You see, every accusation, every accusation is a confession. Every accusation is a confession.
October 7th, BBC report. October 7th, BBC report. And if that's not a fact, then what isn't?
Post it.
Author. I gave you I can read it. Want me to read it like you read it?
I know.
Can I read it like you do? Can I just read it?
can read it, but my question to you is...
it only goes one way with you, Joseph. Joseph,
make a fool of yourself.
Joseph, let me ask you a question. Joseph, did you see the list of rockets that Gaza sent into Israel over the years, the last 23 years? Did you see my list? I sent it to you probably 3 or 4 times.
I know it. I don't need to see your list, but I know it.
Yeah, you don't need to see the list because rockets are being sent in by Gaza every year, every stinking year. They don't want peace. They want a war. They want a war. Israel's giving them war.
In November,
Israel is giving them the war that they want.
After the killing, Matt, the rockets came after the shootings. The rockets, in terms of the Human Rights Watch report in 2019, came on November 13th. Before that, from March to November, there were these indiscriminate killings and shootings of Palestinians. And you said 2019 was a peaceful year. I gave you the World Report from Human Rights Watch in 2019, which says and documents Israeli snipers and Israeli soldiers killing Palestinians under command responsibility. The rockets came on November 13th, after the killings took place. So my point, which I was raising, was an earlier point you had made at the beginning of the show, where you said things were peaceful before October 7th.
They were peaceful when I was there.
Allow me to finish. I then brought up the great mark of return of October 2018. You then said you were there in 2019. I then gave you the Human Rights Watch report of 2019, which shows that you're a liar, because from March 13 to November, there was killings which were being committed by the IDF. So what are you talking about, Mike? I'm giving you facts, and now you're talking about BBC and talking about something else.
I'm talking about BBC. Gaza, the name of the article, it's called Israel Gaza. Hamas raped and mutilated women on October 7th. This is dated December 5th, 2023, and you won't acknowledge it. You won't say October 7th was... You have not acknowledged that there was rape and mutilated...
We'll talk about the rape. I don't want to run away from the rape because we had an entire program on the rape. The first point I want to ask you is, will you at least acknowledge that you were wrong, that before October 7th, things were peaceful in Gaza and West Bank?
I told you when I was there was peaceful. That's what I said.
But I gave you the reports from Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International.
Gaza. I didn't go to Gaza. I told you I didn't go to Gaza. But on October 7th, Hamas raped and mutilated women and kidnapped.
We're talking about West Bank. The Human Rights Watch report is talking about the West Bank in 2019. What are you talking about?
Happen. Hamas raped and mutilated women on October 7th. This is BBC report, December 5th, 2023. And then you tell me I don't give you facts. I gave you facts. You deny them. You call for the destruction of Israel.
Go ahead and make a fool of yourself. Go ahead. Make a fool of yourself.
Like you are perpetuating a war.
We've done with you. Go ahead.
Man,
Go ahead.
You sound like you're in the basement. Maybe you should come to the main floor and talk, man.
What?
Well, why are you covering your face, man? Be a man and show yourself. We're not afraid to show ourselves. Why is it every Israeli is a coward? They don't want to show their face. Why?
Why do you need to see my face?
You can't show your face.
That's a bad argument. That's a red herring. You're attacking the person. You're attacking the person. You're attacking the person. You're shameful. You can't win an argument, so you just lie, and then you ask to see my face. That's crazy.
Well, we are going to close the show pretty soon because Matt really didn't bring any evidence at all.
You brought nothing to the table. You accused us of lying, but you brought nothing of substance.
You brought nothing whatsoever.
Nothing. You debunked everything that you raised. Everything. You made a fool of yourself on the show, Matt. Because I'm going to post this on Facebook. You talk a lot. You've made a fool of yourself on this program. You know nothing. You know nothing about the conflict. I don't know why you even agreed to come on this platform when you know nothing. You made a fool of yourself. People can see you've made a fool of yourself, man. I'm not trying to insult you, but I'm just being honest.
So yeah,
I agree with you, Joe. I find it strange that people won't show their faces on YouTube. What do they have to hide?
I respect you, Mike. At least you've been honest with us and candid, and you call us out for inconsistency. I respect that.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. Thank you. I was just hoping. I mean, it was funny because Ridwan went into gator bait and called the guy a KKK member. I don't know who.
Whatever the case, I mean, those are. So has he left? Mohammed, has this guy Matt left? Has he left the program?
No,
Right.
he's back. He's on the screen now.
Yeah, but
it's
I mean,
interesting that apparently all white people have
the internet.
for their
the point I was making, that just a summary, and I'm not going to make a debating point here, but the point I'm making is that we invited Matt in good faith, and we've had about, I don't know, this is midnight now in South Africa, but he hasn't brought anything of substance to the table. Every single point has been refuted by him, and he still persists in delusion. Now, for example, he said everything before October 7th was good. I gave him the great march of return.
I didn't say that.
Yeah,
I said when I was in Israel, it was peaceful. That's what I said. Don't lie, Joseph. You twist my words. I never said that.
Matt, shut up and listen.
Yeah, I'm glad you actually left the basement. I think
so. The point is, then he said he. So what Matt basically pointed out, he said he was not there during the Great March of Return. He then basically said he was there in 2019. He didn't go to Gaza. He went to the West Bank. I then raised the report from Human Rights Watch, which you saw on the screen, not by me, Human Rights Watch, where they document the systematic targeting by Israeli snipers and soldiers and settlers, and also at the, with the full cover. And to make the point here by Human Rights Watch, these investigators, that look, these are not isolated, rogue soldiers. This seems to be systematic, and that they've shown command responsibility, which means it comes at the highest level. After I showed him that this happened in 2019, he says he wasn't in Gaza. Fine, but the report doesn't just talk about Gaza. It talks about the West Bank as well. So he may have been, I don't know how long he was there for the entire year. The point is that either at the very least, if he's honest to himself, he would be fully aware of the fact on the West Bank that there's different roads, for example, for Palestinians and different roads for Israeli settlers. That Israeli settlers sometimes come at will and take over the land and the crops of Palestinians. That the Palestinians are administered under the emergency laws on the West Bank and don't have the same equal rights to a court system that the Israeli settlers do on the West Bank. That the Israeli settlers on the West Bank have the right to vote, but that the Palestinians don't have the right to vote. That the Israeli settlers on the West Bank can go back to their homes in Tel Aviv and Israel, but the Palestinians who were dumped out of Israel in 1948 and their grandfathers were dumped out, their descendants have absolutely no right to go back into Israel and are under constant military occupation on the West Bank, and that the international instruments that have declared this as unlawful, illegal military occupation, and we have a Christian here who claims to be proclaiming love and peace and everything, is actually going out of his way to make excuses and justify the most belligerent, rapacious, genocidal state we're seeing in human history. I mean, Desmond Tutu and Nelson Mandela stated, these are our luminaries, that what we experienced under the heights of apartheid, I was too young back then, I grew up in the 80s, that the heights of apartheid were not even close to the heights of Israeli apartheid. We never had helicopter gunships blowing up homes and decimating areas and lands. But the irony is that the Israelis not only kill Palestinians, but when push comes to shove, they'll kill their own civilians, as they did on October 7th, and make lies and excuse that this was done by Hamas, and then invent atrocity propaganda of babies being beheaded and burnt, and invent mass rape propaganda. You know what about the rape? I want to point out, we had programs on rape. Not a single eyewitness testimony of rape has been found to be credible, and this has been confirmed by the UK Times. The one article that basically gave rise to the story of rape was an article which was done by Jeffrey Gettleman in the New York Times in January earlier this year. And he makes mention of a woman by the name of Gal Abdush. It was written by Jeffrey Gettleman and Anat Schwartz. It's called Screams Without Violence. You can check out the New York Times report. And the family of Gal Abdush, who was actually killed on October 7th, the family of Gal Abdush and a partner made the point that the New York Times and Jeffrey Gettleman twisted that article and used her as a potential rape victim, when in actual fact she was not raped. She was actually killed about a minute or two and shot in the crossfire between Israel and Hamas a minute or two after she had communicated with her family members. Check up Gal Abdush and the lies. We had Zaka, which is an organization which is involved in apparently picking up dead bodies in Israel. They portray themselves to be a relief organization. The founder of Zaka which first initially promoted the rape propaganda, was founded by a notorious pedophile by the name of Yehuda Mehezai. And we even showed the video where the present leader of Zaka was questioned about the rape, mass rape, and the atrocity propaganda, and he buckled under cross-examination. So I'm saying that what we have in the situation is that people want to continue believing their lies. And when it comes to Israel, it appears that every single accusation is a confession. Beheading babies, we know it was false. There were no beheading babies, but Israel is beheading babies in Gaza. Mass rape, we know there was no mass rape, but right now we are finding Palestinians being raped in Israeli dungeons. And right now there was even a protest by the Israelis a couple of months back for the right to rape after the soldiers were arrested. And when the soldiers had to be released, and now Israel has made a report that, look, there was no actual rape that took place, even though it's been documented by B'Tselem, the Israeli human rights organization, and other human rights organizations within Israel that are challenging the Israeli establishment. Hamas burning children and mutilating civilians never happened. But what you see is Israel is doing the very same thing. Israel is doing the very same thing in Gaza. So every accusation made by Israel is actually a confession of its own crimes. And then you've got useful idiots, like he called me an idiot, so I'm going to call him a useful idiot like Matt, who know nothing about the situation, have been totally demolished in this discussion. I don't know what was his purpose of even coming on this particular program. If he wanted to teach us, he was not the right man for it. And I hope we taught him, and I pray that God guides him and guides him to the truth. If not in terms of his faith, then at the very least on the falsehood and the propaganda that his mind has been systematically brainwashed with. And I hope God guides him to the truth. Mohammed, your comment. Over to you. I'm done.
Yeah, no problem. We have to really close the show. It's coming up to 10 p.m. I'm actually on vacation here in Tunisia. I don't know if anybody has visited Tunisia. It's my last full day here in Monastir in North Africa, Tunisia, and I am totally exhausted. So, guys, thank you for joining us. Matt, once again, thank you for joining us. Mike, of course, as always, thanks for joining us. And Brother Hassan, Jazakumullah Khair, Ridwan, and everybody else. And of course, the co-host, Yusuf Ismail, mashallah. Hopefully, when I arrive back to the UK in a couple of days, we'll continue with another roundup of this important topic. So let me just sort this out here.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody. We even thank you, Matt, for coming in and joining us.
And thank you. Thank you for having me.
Great.
I'm sorry I was a little bit loud today and a little bit out of character. I just don't like people justifying baby killing or bashing baby against the rock. Thank you.
Nobody likes baby killing.
Okay. That's good. Okay. We all agree on something.
Hassan Abadi, thank you for your contribution. Really appreciate that, brother.
Yeah.
Okay, God bless you.
My pleasure.
I do appreciate Matt for coming on, and I know we don't see eye to eye, but at least he's willing to come onto the platform and you know question and put his points across. And I hope he feels you know, kind of like relieved and comfortable coming on this platform in the future. Also, Mike, as you Yusuf mentioned earlier, appreciate you coming on. I know we don't see eye to eye, we don't agree on everything, but you know, you're willing to put your camera on, and you know, you're always willing to engage. Sometimes in a hostile manner, but sometimes in a very calm manner. So we do appreciate the diversity that everybody brings to the platform. Final words from me, of course, here in Monastir. I hope everybody stays safe. I hope there's no nuclear war in the near future with Russia and America, and I think the UK are right in the middle. We've got about 30 minutes to basically say goodbye to our loved ones if the nuclear warheads are sent to us in the UK from Russia. So, guys, you know, let's hope and let's all pray, or you know, pray if you believe in a higher being, that there is no nuclear war. I hope our grandchildren and their children still inhabit the earth, because you know the way the world is going now, we need to sit down like this and have an open discussion. And we might not, agree on everything, but at least we can have a discussion and hopefully shake hands and then move on instead of pressing a button to end the earth. But nevertheless, once again, thank you to everybody for participating in today's show, and stay tuned. And of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, my channel COVFF, and of course Brother Yusuf's channel, the South African Debate Initiative. Once again from me, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam. Greetings to all and peace.
Shalom.
I hope the cops don't really detain you in Tunisia. I've been watching your posts.
Yeah, I know. I'll be detained.
Tunisia.
Thank you, Mike. Hopefully, I'll make it back in one piece in a couple of days. But take care, everybody. I'll see you soon.
And as Sting once said, I hope the Russians love their children too.
Yeah, absolutely.
No,
Take care, everybody. Matt, Hassan, and everybody else.
Shalom.
Bye-bye.